subscribe. Subscribe to my guy, Uncle D. Tell him Big Bass sent you.
Spurling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas, an advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father. I have black sons. Hey, man, I do what I do.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the broadcast. Shout out to everybody in the chat room, man. Y'all make sure you all like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you hadn't already. My name is Dennis Spurling, and I want to, first of all, thank everybody who's hanging out with me today on my various YouTube channels, the Dennis Spurling Podcast, the Law and Legacy Podcast, and the Spurling Report. I would like to welcome everybody who's come on this journey with me of higher education. And I want to thank everybody. Everybody is welcome. Although you may not agree with me on everything I say, I just want to thank and honor you for the time you spent. I'm humbly appreciative. And in response, or should I say, out of respect, what I do is I do my very best to thoroughly research everything that I discuss. And that doesn't just include book stuff. It means I talk to you all. So I will interact with you guys. I will talk to you guys. I will definitely read all the super chats as they pop up. And the most important thing about me that you all know is that I'm not afraid to tackle tough subjects. And more importantly, I'm going to give you the cold, hard truth about it, which is why my nickname is the Blizzard King. All right. But anyway, one of the real surprises of the summer of 2026 has been the European response to coming to the U.S. for the World Cup. For many years, Americans have been told by foreign media, elite commentators, and even some of our own people that America is backwards, right? We're violent, uncivilized, it's unsophisticated, falling apart. But then the World Cup happens, and people from Europe, Japan, Ireland, Germany, Scotland, all over the world, they actually come here, and suddenly the story changes. They're not just talking about the Grand Canyon, okay, or New York City or a Hollywood sign. They're talking about Buc-ee's. They're talking about Texas Roadhouse and Waffle House and Walmart and free fills, soft drinks and portion sizes and air conditioning, highways, customer service, parking lots, clean bathrooms, general Southern hospitality, and basic American convenience. These World Cup fans have been raving about American comfort, our food, rural hospitality, and all sorts of stuff that we just take for granted, you know. There's a report by Time Out said that European visitors have they're flooding social media with videos celebrating America's aggressive use of AC. Okay, and understand something. I need you guys to understand this. These aren't people sneaking across the border. Okay, these are international visitors who came through the front door. They bought plane tickets, they got passports, and many had to deal with visas, hotels, rental cars, food tickets, transportation, and the cost of moving around one of the largest countries on earth, our country. Now, international World Cup visitors expected to spend on average about $5,000 a person, and that's about 1.7 times more than the typical international trip to the United States. And 1 in 3 plan to stay longer than the 2 weeks. And that tells you something important. America isn't just receiving a bunch of desperate people looking for emergency relief and trying to get on welfare so they can send it back home. This is a different class of people. And during the World Cup, America's receiving, like I said, a different kind of visitor than we're used to. People with money, people with choices, and curiosity and enough money to compare America against the rest of the developed world. And it's predicted that 70.5 million international arrivals to the U.S. is coming in 2026, and they'll spend $178 billion for 2026. FIFA alone is expected to bring 10 million fans to the U.S. Now, we don't really know that much about soccer. That's not really our thing. But, you know, it seems to me that the ordinary American lifestyle is extraordinary by global standards based on what I see. And we complain about foreigners, you know. We complain about our country, but foreigners see abundance. They see travel plaza. They see that's clean. They see bigger and more efficient. They see big airports. They see mobility, you know, and, you know, we complain about air conditioning, but, you know, they use it for survival. I mean, think about this. AC, okay? Europe has been suffering through deadly heat waves. Many of the homes and buildings, they don't even have American style AC. They maybe have a window unit, but just so I can run this down to you, in 2022, the Nature Medicine study estimated that 62,000 heat-related deaths happen in Europe. Okay? And there was another Nature Medicine study that estimated 47,690 heat-related deaths happened in 2023. So 62,000 in 2022, almost 48,000 in 2023. And I want you to just compare this. By comparison, Pew Research reports that 44,447 gun-related deaths happened in the U.S. in 2024. So in other words, there are more Europeans dying of heat stroke than Americans dying of gunshots every year. Put that in perspective. And so when they come and see America and they experience AC, this is probably like a new phenomenon for them. So the real story is that America still works, and America has courts, it has elections, it has constitutional order and peaceful transfers of power. And America, and shout out to Day Walker, America has a Congress made up of House of Representatives, Senate. We have presidents. We don't have kings. We don't have strong men. We don't have dictators who serve four terms, you know, on end. We don't have that. No person can be elected to president more than twice. And that means no matter how much you dislike the president, you don't have to overthrow him. Okay, you wait, organize, vote, litigate, campaign, and remove him from office through law. We can sue the government. We can criticize the president. We can attack policies. We can organize, you know, and even when Americans lose trust in the government, the machinery of self-correction still exists. So when European visitors come here and they start praising America, they're doing more than complimenting our food. They're confirming that the American experiment still has power. And that's why Americans need to stop taking our country for granted. I mean, sometimes it takes an outsider to walk in, right, to something as simple as a gas station, you know, fill the central air in the middle of July and remind us that what we call normal is something much of the world doesn't have. Now, let's go ahead and take a few. I want you guys to kind of check out the videos because I found them to be hilarious. So I have several sets of videos we're going to go over. We're going to learn a lot more than you guys expect. If you just hang in there with me, I'm going to take you on a journey, and I think you all are going to truly appreciate what you learn here. But in the meantime, like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these videos, and I thought they were pretty cool. You literally got people on here crying, but let's check this out.
We went to pay and the guy was like, no, it's already been paid for.
We went for a beer this morning. Went up to pay for it. A lady already paid the beer for her. That is friendship.
We're hearing a lot of that. Yeah, I was at a 7-Eleven there, and the police, they were buying like people's food and all that. They were just so nice. You would never find that in Scotland.
We've had a few drinks bought free of charge, which is great. We love that. But we've also received.
How many of you understand what this this lad is saying. He's saying a few drinks. Now, keep in mind, and these guys are from Ireland, and I believe this is Boston. They ran out of beer in Boston. Okay, the Irish came through with their kilts on or whatever, and they ran out of beer in Boston. Is it the Irish that wear the kilts or the Scottish? I think it's the Irish. They drank all the beer in Boston. Pretty much everywhere these Irish people go, they drink all the beer magically disappears. I mean, I'm not talking about one or two. They're throwing back 10, 15 beers a piece. So they ran out of beer. So I think that's pretty cool. Somebody said they're from Scotland. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for the correction. Let's keep listening.
Debated that, so it's no problem.
Are Americans representing? Is that what you're saying?
100%.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
So nice.
Meeting expectations or exceeding?
Way exceeding.
Exceeding. These people have been on the they believe that, you know, America is this unsafe place with a bunch of people, you know, mass shootings and whatnot. They didn't realize just how amazing the United States is and how vast our country is, something we often don't. Let's keep listening.
America, and this place is absolutely insane. It's massive.
Now, what do you think he's talking about? He said this place is insane, it's massive. What do you think he's talking about? I'm thinking he must be talking about a Coliseum or something, right? Look what he's talking about.
That's
Bass, look at that. Bass Pro Shop. Look at that. This is what he's talking about.
Pro
right?
Shop.
Now, I don't want to mess my, I'm going to turn the music down, but this guy's just going on and on about Bass Pro Shop, because remember, they don't have places like this when they can go in and just get everything they want all in one place. And apparently Europeans are amazed by the fact that they're able to literally walk in and make a firearm purchase, because I guess largely in most European nations, the firearms, owning a firearm is either very difficult or impossible. So they don't have that. So they've been taking over gun ranges. They've been just, I mean, it's like a bunch of kids in a candy store. So I just thought that was pretty cool. But let's move on to the next one. Here's another guy. Check him out. Okay. And this gentleman is, this guy here is about to walk into a football stadium. Let's check this out.
35 degrees Celsius. I've taken all my.
He said 35 degrees Celsius. How much is that? About 100 degrees, something like that. Now, keep in mind, they don't have these sort of facilities in Europe. All right. And so we have stadiums like this everywhere. You know, this is not a big deal to us. This is nothing. So let's listen to him.
Is outside, and I'm like, I just need to find me some shade, and I just want to experience what it's going to feel like to actually walk into the stadium, to feel the air conditioned. Oh, this is glorious. Absolutely glorious. It's like stepping into a fridge.
Look at that.
Living the dream.
He was hot. I bet his armpits was sweating. There's some sweaty armpits. I realize if you all don't have air conditioning in Europe, you all have some sweaty armpits. We need to send them a care package of deodorant, okay? And not the one in jail. We need the white one that clumps up under your armpits and gets stuck in your hair. That's what they need. We need to send Europe a whole 747 full of deodorant that, and we don't want the non-stick. We want the stick, because y'all must be funky over there. If I'm just saying, if you all don't have air conditioning in July, people dying of heat stroke. It's a lot of sweating and funk going on right now. I didn't know this, okay? Because I was like, yeah, let's go. I've only been to Europe once, and it was winter, okay? So it's not that it was. I went to Britain or the UK, London. So it was kind of cloudy. I know the food was not very tasty, but I didn't know it got that hot. You all are dying over there. Y'all dying. Y'all armpits must be dying too. I bet Europe is funky. Somebody type funky in the chat room. Let's keep going.
I can feel myself rapidly cooling down. This is what dreams are made of.
Rapidly cooling down. He's so rapidly cooling down. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that you know, this is what we're doing over here. We got AC, we got Buc-ee's, we got everything. We got guns, we got cheeseburgers. So let's move on. I like this guy too. He was He was a trip. Check this out. Somebody type Texas Roadhouse. Somebody type barbecue.
But like I'm in America with my son, so I'm like, let's go to Texas Roadhouse. It's unbelievable. First of all, they give you these peanuts. You can eat as many as you want. She's like, yeah, just take a bag. Then they come out and they put this bread on the table, and I'm like, oh, I didn't order that.
I know. The bread is a trick. The bread is a trick. Don't get full on the bread because there might be an all you can eat, advertisement. If they fill you on bread and beverages, you want to hold out for the meat. Okay, I'm just saying. Let's keep going.
The bread, it's like, oh, that's free. And it's like, and she goes, and if you want more bread, we'll just give you more. And this bread it's as nice as bread can possibly be. Like, if you're an Australian, try and picture the most unbelievable bread, like Subway bread. Got this fancy butter. Then they give you the Coke. Of course, it's America, so it's unlimited refill.
Yeah.
And then
they better. They want my service. They better.
It was all like ribs and steak and chips.
Yeah, man.
There was an onion that had been deep fried, and you dip it in the sauce.
I know just what you're talking about.
You just leave there so happy. And then Australia,
you're gonna be fat. You're gonna leave that fat. You're gonna be extra husky. You better watch it, little European man. You won't be able to fit in those tight pants and shirts that you all wear. You're gonna have to get some Hanes and some Fruit of the Looms. But let's let him finish. And I'm happy he experienced this. This is pretty cool. But again, these are just things that we as Americans take for granted. AC, Texas Roadhouse, ample supplies of food, portions, etc. It just says so much about, the caliber of life and lifestyle that we live here in the United States. Again, I'm not saying we are perfect, but clearly, if Europe is the apex of civilization and the Europeans and the richest of the Europeans have now come over here and basically taken over all of our fast food restaurants and Walmarts and told us this is amazing. What does that tell you about America? Like, for all these people who've been consistently or constantly talking down America doesn't have this, Europeans better. And now the Europeans themselves, okay, and I'm talking about the rich ones, the upper middle class and middle class Europeans, are now over here saying, no, you got Europe beat. Y'all got Australia beat, Europe. The Japanese have taken over Dallas. They are throwing back shots at tequila, hanging out with Latina strippers. I heard about some German guys who got caught up on Richmond Boulevard at the strip clubs here in Houston, just hanging out, got carried away. So, it seemed, and I'm not saying don't do that. Okay. I'm not, keep it Jesus. But my whole point is, it seems to me like we've been lied to. It seems to be like all these other people telling us that America is this and America is that, and America doesn't have this. Seems like if they're comparing us to Europe, sounds like we've been lied to, at least as far as the Europeans are saying, because if they don't have air conditioning, let's just start with air conditioning. That is basic. That is basic civilization requirements. We wouldn't be able to inhabit Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, and Southern California without air conditioning in the summer. Can you imagine a hot and muggy day in Louisiana and South Louisiana with no AC? You might fall out. But anyway, let's keep going.
are all like, yeah, but in America you've got to tip. No, you don't have to tip. You want to tip. These people are the most wonderful people in the world.
Yeah, tip.
I don't even know why you Americans are so angry.
They don't want a hug. They just give them a tip. That's all you need. This is what they do, man. This is why we tip. This is why Americans tip, because we are the land of plenty and we reward service. We give extra. That's part of our culture. We reward that extra effort. Okay, we reward that extra effort. Let's let
people are the most wonderful people.
He looked just like his daddy. Woo-wee. He looked like he spit him out. That boy looked just like his daddy. Look at that. There wasn't no mama involved in that. That is a clone. Anyway, shout out to you and your son.
The world. I don't even know why you Americans are so angry all the time. You guys have Texas Roadhouse in your country. You should just be walking around wanting to hug everybody.
Americans are not angry. We just don't take anybody's stuff. We are the nicest people, especially here in Texas, especially the Southerners. Southerners are the nicest people. We get along pretty much as long as you cool, we're cool. I mean, this is you got it all messed up. Let's see what this fella has to say. Keep on listening.
I apologise on the UK's behalf. We done you guys wrong. We done you dirty. The UK.
We done you dirty. This is one of those black Brits that we've heard so much about. You got the little curly top. This is one of those black British. We didn't look, let me be honest with you all. As a black American, as a foundational black American, we were not necessarily aware that they had this many black people in Britain. We didn't really think that. We thought, when we think Britain, we think Sherlock Holmes, we think Düsseldorf, we think Harry Potter, Agent 007. We don't really think about black people over there. Okay, that's not when we think of the UK. First of all, it's two letters, U and K, and we're just now figuring out that the UK means England and Scotland, okay, and Ireland. We like, why don't they just call them those? Are those the same? United Kingdom. We put that together because we don't really learn much about you all other than we beat y'all up and sent you all back across the Atlantic. That's pretty much what we've learned. We know about the Queen, and we learned about that the Harry. We know about former Prince Harry who married the girl from Compton. Okay, we learned about that, but for the most part, we didn't really know you had black Brits over there. But let's keep listening.
The media, the outlets, they're not telling the truth. They must be showing us crazy stuff in the UK. Because the things we thought of the Americans, I can't even say. Because you'd be like, but I love this place. This place is amazing.
Yeah, you still got to go home now. Don't get too comfortable. We know you love it. We're happy you're here. Spend your money, but we got to get you on back across the pond. But we happy you here. Come back and visit. Go hang out in Miami sometime for Memorial Day weekend. It'll be a wholesome time. But let's keep going.
Atmosphere, the people, the food. Just God bless America, and it's the land of the free. Can you believe it? And in the UK, nah, we get told the US is like this, the US is like that. It's dangerous. Don't go. People are not nice.
Look, look. I get the euphoric feeling of coming to a place for the first time. There are some parts of the United States that are dangerous. You shouldn't be hanging out. I wouldn't go to some parts, and depending on the time. But for the most part, as a foreigner, people gonna treat you like, oh, you one of them UK man. Look at that, man. You got to say something, man. Say something, man. Say top of the morning to me. Say something. We find you all intriguing. Again, remember, the immigrants that we typically get here in the United States are not from the UK. They are not upper middle class. They're not middle class. They're not rich. They're not here to watch a soccer game. They're coming up from the southern border. They're sneaking in. They end up on welfare. We see them hanging out in front of Home Depot. They brother. They want to come over here and talk stuff. That's not what we get. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest with you. So this is like a breath of fresh air to get some people over here who, they flew over here first class, hanging out. Yeah, they'll pay for your meal. You know what I'm saying? So but the American, especially in the South, I can't really speak for Boston because Boston. I'm happy you all are treating the Scottish well, but Boston, as far as I'm concerned, is not on my list of places to go too often. I've been a couple of times, and 2 times too many. But pretty much over here in America, you get the energy we return the energy you put out. So if you come over here like this, and we love sports, and even though we don't understand soccer for the most part, I notice one of them kicks the ball around, and then the one with the uniform that doesn't look like the rest of them, he tries to block the ball, and we don't know. But we happy you happy, and we happy you and enjoying our stadiums.
The UK, why are you telling lies? Why are you continuing to tell lies? Why?
They got a lie, because otherwise y'all be trying to come over here, they'll lose all their people. Yeah, America it's the richest country in the world. It's the most powerful nation in this world. It's one of the most stable nations in this world, and we have a great government. Let's take a look at this fella right here.
Carolina in Charlotte, and I'm speechless. The place is beautiful.
Beautiful.
Spotless. You even to find a piece of paper. Look at, you can't see a piece of paper on the ground. Look at even their grasses look like they're educated. Look at the trees, guys, standing like they got scholarship.
This dude said the grass looks like it's educated, man. Now, I know he hot down there with the pastel suit on in North Carolina. Let's keep going.
I almost enrolled by accident, guys, because it's so. They even have a lake where you can do catch and release.
Yeah, you can go.
So they have there's fish in here. You can catch and release. They have private university buses on campus. They have hotels on campus. Hotel on campus. Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Chinese, all on campus.
Oh, man.
Hey, as an African, you can call me uncivilized, but I've never seen anything like this. I don't care. I'm just being real. This is not a university. This is a luxury resort with assignments. It's giving Buckingham Palace. It's giving somewhere in the Queen's Palace in London. Look at you guys. I'm like, Jesus Christ. How can you miss school when your campus look like University of North Carolina? How?
Well, because they have other things to do, like spring break, and sometimes they may have to go visit their parents, and so they will let the professor know or let one of their friends know to record the class for them, and they will catch up with the professor later. Sometimes our students need a 3-day weekend. Sometimes they schedule things and things happen, so that's why they'll miss school. But we thank you so much for your kind words, and we'll take them into consideration. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish, sir. Please continue explaining to us how beautiful UC in UNC Charlotte is.
How are you gonna miss school? How are you gonna skip class when your campus look like this? You see why these students who study in these American universities, some of them are, I don't want to say smarter, but then honestly, yeah, you can't leave. Yeah. What do you expect? What do you expect if a student leave a university like this? What do you expect? I mean, look at.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to be. It's not like you have to see what he's trying to explain to you all is that a place like that in some parts of Europe would be overrun with homeless people and trash and all sorts of nasty stuff going on. And it's just hard to even learn, Let's go to another one. I like this guy right here. He was really heartfelt. This is a German fella. And he doesn't want to go home. He just started crying. I mean, I found this amazing.
Tyria, why? Help us understand. Why is it so impactful to you?
Sebastian Krauts never imagined his trip to America would be so emotional.
Yeah. No, you're human. Happy tears.
In just a few weeks being here,
I fall in love with this country, and this was so emotional. I even cried in the stadium.
It's a huge departure from what he was expecting before traveling to follow the German soccer team in its World Cup run.
To be honest, I was a bit scared or had the fear to travel to the United States. News about shootings and criminals and that the country is not safe. God takes us home. It's great. America is great.
Sebastian met a group of strangers who offered him a ride to his hotel.
What is the best city?
Boston. That's Bob Series and his family, New Englanders who showed a group of Germans that Boston is warmer than some might believe.
Bob, thank you. Love USA.
Enjoy your time in the U.S.
To me, I watched the video by myself maybe 40 times. I had tears in my eyes.
Sebastian was more upset about the prospect of leaving America.
I had tears in my eyes. I came to Boston. I came to see the football game, which we call football, but it's really soccer. They don't understand. I don't know why they call it soccer. It's football because you use your foot. But this was really heartfelt. I thought it was pretty cool, man. Just look how, think about it. These people have worked their whole lives. They've sacrificed. Many of them are highly educated people. They have extra money to spend, and they live in countries that are overrun by immigration, trash. The government doesn't care about them. They don't have these type of facilities. And it's like, what's the point of my hard work? Why did I make all these sacrifices? And so then they come somewhere like the United States and they're like, wow, this is what a society is supposed to look like. And that's why they're in tears. Like, imagine being hopeless and then you come somewhere and it's like, wow, this is what life could be like, because their whole existence has been old, run down, 1,000-year-old crap, air conditioned, people dying, overrun by people that don't speak your language. You can't even have your own, and now you got wide open spaces. So, and high taxes. That's the other thing they have to do.
America than Germany being eliminated from the tournament. That kindness he experienced is also what many locals and transplants have lived as well.
I loved living here. I thought the people were always so kind.
People here are very polite.
The World Cup just made it easier for folks to see.
I certainly talk to a lot more strangers than I normally do.
And you think it's because of the World Cup?
I do.
Americans are not rude, Germans are not rude. If we are together, we can achieve great things.
Sebastian's going to be sick.
You got to go on back to Germany now. Don't come over here. We don't want, no. You go on back to Germany. But we're happy you're here today. Now, if you go back and apply the right way, I'm sure they put you up toward the top of the list. But
around for a little longer. He's going to spend the 4th of July in Washington, D.C. Then he goes back home to Germany to his family and friends. He's going to be telling them all about our country. And as for our Good Samaritan Bob, I spoke with him over the phone. He says that he's just trying to pay back all the kindness that he received when he traveled the world. And he agrees New England and Boston are actually a friendly place.
All right. Well, cool. I'm glad that these folks are enjoying. I got another couple of videos that these folks coming over here hanging out. And I just thought it was pretty cool. This guy, he's just lost in the airport. He just found the airport.
Every day, America is not real. Look what's going on in the airport.
I mean, think about that. Just having somebody singing songs in the airport, right? I mean, just think about that. That's something they don't have. That is crazy to me, man. You can't find somebody going there and sing a little karaoke, huh? While you departing your plane, huh?
Even when I lose, I'm winning.
What a place. What a place. I never want to go home.
Man, good shot at. Again, if nothing else, this should make you really begin to take another look at what we've been overlooking. Sometimes, when my grandma used to say this, she would say when she was talking to my cousin, she said when she would tell him, a man never looked better. What did she say? She would say, a man never looked better to a woman than when she saw him on the arm of another woman. In other words, you don't really appreciate what you have until somebody else comes along and shows you just how much you should appreciate it. Now, I got a couple more videos, and we'll just keep on pushing and get our way out of here. This is them at one guy at a stadium. Check this out.
Just look at this. Look at that stadium, mate. Oh my word. I'm not sure why people were worried about these US stadiums, because if they're anything like this, they completely top the European ones. This is unbelievable.
And that's just a random NFL stadium in Atlanta. That's not Dallas. That's not that $1 billion stadium. That's not the one that we have, what used to be called Reliance Stadium. So I mean, they don't even have they don't have the facilities for this, and it's air conditioning, and the roof comes off, right? And that's just amazing to them.
This roof even opens as well. Like, come on, this is the most majestic thing I've ever seen. Let me know in the comments if other US stadiums are like this, and if you want to see more adventures of me in America.
Yep, they all like that or better. Hell, we have some high school stadiums that apparently are better designed and more expansive than some of the stuff they have there. Here's a couple more.
The worst age tweet of all time. So on June 8th, 18 days before.
Listen to this. The World Cup is about to something. I can't see. America is a shithole country. The USA. Okay, experience America as a shithole country. So this guy said this is the worst tweet ever. It
Before
did
the World
not
Cup
age
started
well.
in the US, this guy told 2.5 million people that the World Cup was going to expose how much of a shithole America is. And now a few weeks into the World Cup, I'd like a follow-up on this tweet there, buddy. So let's start off with just a basic stat, shall we? Because this World Cup just already set the world record for the most attended World Cup in history. 3.6 million people. Well, let's forget about the records and statistics, because I want to focus on the wholesome content that is coming out of the World Cup this year. And before I keep going, you watched the video for this long, so you might as well give me a follow. Because in a time where
somebody type America is great. Somebody type America is great in the chat room. All right. And we're gonna have a heart. And I want all my foundational Black Americans to come to the front of the room. This is for you, because we've had a lot of people trying to soul swap with us, trying to destiny swap with us, and trick us out of our inheritance. And I hope by the end of this broadcast, I can use all of my lawyer skills and my ability to convince you these people are trying to hoodwink you out of not only your destiny, but your inheritance, your hard-earned inheritance. Somebody type America is great in the chat room.
where it feels like everybody absolutely hates each other, there's one thing that seems to have brought the entire world together. And while everyone's saying, oh, bread and circus, I want more circus. Give me all the circuses. For example, the city of Lawrence, Kansas, with a population of under 100,000 people, basically adopted the entire Algerian national team. We have guys named Jim Bob, who are diehard Algerian soccer fans now. The Iranian national team is leaving handwritten notes about peace and friendship in every single stadium they play in. Ecuador fans put their own jersey on the Rocky statue in Philadelphia. There was a wedding in Philly yesterday, where basically the entire country of Croatia joined in to take pictures with the bride and her bridesmaids. Hundreds of fans from different countries are doing jersey swaps with each other. The famous German walked into an SEC stadium, saw an eagle fly around at Auburn, and was immediately American pilled. There's foreigners who cannot believe that Vermont and Texas are in the same country. The Japanese are starting chants saying, "We love Dallas." Norway is rowing their way across the US in every city imaginable. And teams like the Netherlands and Germany are also just taking over cities in ways that we...
Man, I am so happy for these people. Like, look, let me tell you something. And I'm happy for Americans because, look, we don't have a problem with immigrants. We just have a problem with people coming over here, taking resources and we have our own poor people, okay? And America is about winning. It's about success. But how is it that a person who is trying to, quote unquote, pull themselves up by the bootstraps, you got about 1 million people coming up here from the southern border, and then they get placed right in front of you in your community. So now you got lack of resources, lack of jobs. You know, kids can't do the summer jobs anymore because you got a bunch of people, illegals working there. If we could get 10 or 20 million upper middle class and middle class people come to America with some education, who are willing to assimilate into the culture, Americans would not have a problem with immigration. But as it is right now, we are not getting these type of immigrants. We're not getting immigrants who fly over here on first class seats and stay in 5-star hotels and, you know, drink the bars out. That's not what we're getting. And so I would say over the past 5 or 6 years, you know, Americans are a little sour on immigrants, maybe more like 30 or 40 years. But, you know, I'm happy that they're happy. I'm happy that they appreciate, because I was sick and tired of people who come to this country and then complain about Americans. Oh, Americans are lazy, they're fat, they're not like, get up out of here. Excuse my language. I want to watch the profanity. But I like to see this, man. This makes me feel good. And it confirms something that I know and that anybody who's actually traveled knows. America is the greatest country on the planet, and we should be very appreciative of what we had. I'm gonna let this run, and then we're gonna maybe one more, and then we're gonna move on to the next section. You guys,
somebody please explain to me what is going on over here in the South. Everybody is so friendly, so welcoming, so calming. The way they talk, the accent, I love hearing it. It's like beautiful chimes in my ear. Being around people in the South genuinely calms me down. They talk slower. The pace of life over here feels slower. My blood pressure has gone down since I've got to the South. The food tastes better in the South. Everything over here in the South I love it. What is going on, man? What is the secret? I bloody.
We chilling, man. Life is good. This is why we do what we do. You see, this is why America is a country of overachievers. I don't care. We are into winning. Somebody type winning in the chat room. We win. We are winners.
We love people from the South. I bloody love everything about the South. Seriously, what is it about the South that is making everybody so calm, so lovely, and so peaceful? What do they know?
It's hot. It's humid. We got plenty of food. We have wide open spaces, so you get a chance to look at nature. You might live in a city like Houston, Texas, but you drive 20, 30 minutes out, you're surrounded by a forest area. So, you know, and the thing is, America is a continental country. It expands from one major ocean to another, from the Pacific to the Atlantic. So everybody's spread out. We're not over saturated with bodies. And, you know, for the most part, if you move down south, you don't, other than, let's say, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, I'm going to say maybe Austin. Those are pretty much the only, in Miami, if you want to consider Florida the South. But those are really, to me, the only major American cities down south. But by contrast, if you're on the East Coast, you got Philly, Chicago, New York, what else? Baltimore, all those cities packed in, so you got a bunch of people up there. But you know, down south is easy living. Somebody type easy living in the chat room.
Know that we don't know. What are they doing differently from us? I need to know. Get in the comments. If you live in the South, I love you. The barbecue I ate yesterday was off the chart. Everybody I've met wants to have a chat, is genuinely interested in our lives, and wants to help out. I love it here.
Yeah, Americans are generally friendly. We are not a standoffish people. If you're here, we want to welcome you. And in America, it's about the energy you give back. If you give off good energy, we're going to give off good energy. That's generally how it is. You're going to run across a few jerks every now and then. But for the most part, you know, that's just how America is, especially down south, because we have time. No, we're not necessarily in a rush. Let's go ahead and I just like, I'm going to end it on this note. I like the way this guy ended it. And then we'll move on to
pride for the country. They love the country so much. It's everything about it. The national anthem was incredible. It's amazing. I had goosebumps all over.
Yeah, the national anthem. So this is, we got foreigners coming here getting goosebumps from listening to our national anthem. And then we got people who act like America is a bastard stepchild and they just can't wait to get away. But anyway, let me kind of, I want to, you know, we got to tell the truth, right? And I'm going to tell you what these people are coming from, and I'm going to do my best to help you understand what the average European is seeing, okay? Because we don't really pay attention to what's going on over there. Hell, we don't even know what's going on in Canada and Mexico, all right? And they're our neighbors. But Europe, let me say it like this. Europe looks grand on a map. It's majestic, and we read about it in the history books. But physically, much of Europe is small. It's crowded, it's old, it's heavily regulated, and already overdeveloped. I mean, Europe, think about it. America is only 250 years old. Europe is like 1,500, 2,000 years old. So you got stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff. Like trying to put a new paint job on a moldy old bathroom tile, right? And so and other thing is, when you compare Europe to the United States in landmass, if you include Russia, right, it's different. But most of Russia is unhospitable wilderness. But if you exclude Russia, okay, European Russia, the US is far larger than Europe. Texas alone is larger than almost every individual country in Europe. You can place the United Kingdom, Ireland, the Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Switzerland, Australia, Luxembourg, and Greece all inside of Texas and still have enough land mass for one more American state. And that matters, okay? Because Americans think in terms of space. We think in terms of highways, suburbs, trucks, farms, subdivisions, interstate travel, open land. And Europeans think in terms of trains, borders, short flights, dense cities, cramped flats, which is their word for like an apartment, and countries packed tight, okay? They're right next to each other. And in Europe, a person can hop on a budget airline and fly from one country to another for the price of a dinner, okay? And in America, it would take you 12 hours just to drive from El Paso to Beaumont, you see? So in Europe doesn't have unlimited farmland. They don't have unlimited energy, housing, the roads. There's not that, the open land is not like that. So much of Europe's land is already shaped by cities and roads and farms. And that means Europe is not dealing with any empty space, okay? Waiting to be developed. It's dealing with old neighborhoods, expensive housing, tight streets, aging infrastructure, and limited energy resources and public services that are stressed. And so here's the thing. They're also dealing with a migration problem, okay? I'm not talking about immigration. I'm talking about people just migrating there. They're dealing with large numbers of people arriving quickly from the global south, okay? And pressure doesn't, look, the pressure doesn't fall on unused land. It falls directly on those apartments and schools and hospitals and police departments and welfare offices and public transit and neighborhoods that were never built to absorb that rapid number of that number of people. And this is why migration has become one of the central political battles in Europe. They are crowded, okay? They are hostile, right? It's a hostile takeover by illegal immigrants from the global south. African, Arab countries, they are just migrating. 2024, okay? 919,000 non-European Union citizens were found to be illegally present in the EU. That's an extra million people, okay? Keep in mind, you can push all those countries into the state of Texas. So that's just how little that space is. Think about that. Now, France, you know, the EU also issued, they said that they issued like 500,000 orders for people to leave, and they still won't go. And the continent is struggling to decide who has the right to remain and who's got to go and how to get them out of there. And so Europeans themselves are now saying out loud what many Americans call extremists for saying years ago, okay? They got to go. They're basically saying it's a migrant invasion. They got to go, shut the borders down. Now, again, along with this massive influx of people, you have a lot of criminality, okay? Rapid migration, failed assimilation, concentrated poverty, weak deportation systems, organized struggling, cultural separation. Europe is dealing with real violence, real fear, real street disorder. I want to put something in perspective with you. Sexual violence, okay? There's a Eurostat reported that in 2024, police recorded 256,302 sexual violence offenses in the EU, including 98,190 grapes. Can you imagine if they had that many grapes inside the state of Texas? That's what I want you to understand. Imagine if they had 98,000 grapes in the state of Texas. And I'm not talking about the grapes that you make grape juice with. You understand? Now, compare with 2023, that sexual violence offense, it rose 5%, and the grape rate rose 7%. And so over the decade from 2014 to 2024, the recorded SA or violence in the EU increased 94% in 10 years. Can you imagine that? Imagine you got an 8-year-old daughter, and from the time she was 8 to the time let's say she's 18 now, the threat against her personhood and her body has increased that much. We're talking about 150%. It is literally not safe for those women to walk down the street. In July 2024, England and Wales police chiefs described violence against women and girls as a national emergency. Think about that. We're not talking about drugs. We're not talking about You got a bunch of people over here, and the women are not safe. You can't let them do anything. They can't go anywhere. You see, the House of Commons Library reported that violence against women and girls makes up 20% of all recorded crime in Wales and England. And the police recorded that rape and sexual assault offenses against women and girls increased 264% from 2009 to 2024. You understand what these folk are dealing with? This is so when they come over, hey, there was an incident that happened in Germany on New Year's Eve in 2025. 1,000 women in 2015, 1,000 women were sexually assaulted in Cologne, Germany by groups of men that they identified as refugees or undocumented migrants from North Africa and the Middle East. This is what these people are going through. And so when they come over here, right, just the sheer safety alone that they feel. And it's everywhere, whether we're talking about France, whether we're talking about Germany, Great Britain. You see, this is what these people are dealing with. And see, that's the modern face of European disorder. Not just as, we're not talking about just a stranger in the alley. We're talking about organized abuse, online coordination, weak detection, and victims who may never receive justice. This is what they're dealing with. Look, Sweden. We always talk about Sweden. For you guys who don't know, Sweden, Norway, etc. The Vikings, right? That's where they are. Top of Sweden was sold as the model. They were generous with their welfare. They have these progressive values, this open migration. They have a high trust, peaceful street situation going. Now the Swedish police have identified about 62,000 people active in or connected to criminal networks. You see, including 14,000 active participants. In other words, they got 14,000 crooks and criminals doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Reuters reported that deadly shootings in Sweden more than tripled over the past decade. In 2023, Sweden had 9 times more deadly shootings than Norway, Denmark, Finland combined. And Swedish officials described their criminal networks as system threatening, involving violence, and they actually silence witnesses. They threaten social workers. They infiltrate authorities and political parties, traffic, drugs, scams, elderly. This is what these people are doing over there. You understand what I'm saying? And look, we all have heard about what's going on in this knife fighting. And that's just not something we can conceptualize here in America because we have guns. Somebody type CDL in the chat room. A concealed carry license. Somebody type concealed carry license in the chat room. We packing over here, and we're not talking about knives, okay? But the Office of National Statistics reported that 49,151 knife or sharp instrument offenses in the year ending in December 2025. Can you imagine that? This is what's going on. These are tiny little countries. You understand? England is not that big. And here's the cold part. That was down from the year before where there was nearly 50,000 recorded knife incidents. You understand what I'm saying? And the same issues happening in Paris. These people do not feel safe. And so that's why I want you to just picture this. So shout out to William Lynch. So this is why some Europeans and tourists, they don't experience urban life as glamorous. They don't feel safe in crowds. Their experiences as a constant. They have to constantly be vigilant. Your phone, your bag, your flashy jewelry. You know, don't get distracted. Don't leave the cafe. Don't leave them on the table. Don't walk like a tourist. Don't let anybody get too close. That's what Americans need to understand. When Europeans come here and react like the U.S. is a breath of fresh air, they're reacting to countries where a woman can walk into a restaurant with a nice purse and sunglasses and not automatically feel like every eye in the room is calculating on how to snatch them from her. They're reacting to stores with wide aisles, roads built for movement, homes with big yards, restaurants with parking, commercial culture where ordinary people can still enjoy ordinary comfort without feeling trapped inside of overcrowded under pressure, under a pressure cooker. Okay, I want you to understand something. Like, there was a study that came out that said Mississippi is richer than England. Like, the standard of living for a plumber in Mississippi, he makes more money than a doctor in England. I think that's what it was. Think Mississippi is always at the bottom of our list here in America. So just understand the quality of living that they're having to deal with, or the standard of living. And see, that's why those, what they call right-wing / conservative parties are rising in Europe. It's not because of racism. Well, how would you feel if your daughters weren't safe? How would you feel if you couldn't walk down the street? You want to ride around with a Rolex? You bet not. You see, and see, that old liberal promise was compassion and diversity and cheap labor and moral superiority. But a lot of ordinary Europeans believe what they received was overcrowding, a lot of cultural conflict, a lot of fear, disorder, weaker public services, and a political class that protected ideology before its own citizens. This is what they feel. I'm just telling you why it's so. There's no reason for you to go into Buc-ee's and be like, oh my, this is amazing. That is not what Buc-ee's is meant for. It's the gas station. Okay, but here's the more important point. Here's the more important point. And shout out to somebody just contributed to the super chat. Shout out to William Lynch. This is a warning to America. You understand? Because we got it going on over here. If you didn't believe it before, you know now. After the World Cup, they let us know we have the best country on the planet, and the word is getting around. But what you need to understand as an American, and I'm talking specifically to Black Americans, because we keep letting people ride in here and borrow our black card, and we stand up for them. You understand something? No nation can remain compassionate if it refuses to defend its own people, and no society can survive if it refuses to control its borders. You're not going to be able to preserve your culture. You're not going to be able to manage your resources. You certainly won't be able to enforce your laws. Aside from taxes, one of the reasons I voted for Trump last time, because little girls kept getting taken advantage of by these people coming up here under the Biden administration. Every day, every week, I look up, whether we talk about Lake and Riley, there was a little girl that got, I'm going to say, taken advantage of and unalived a couple of miles from my office. How can I vote for another Democrat if you just going to leave the borders open and little girls and women aren't safe? That's crazy to me. That is insane to me. How can any self-respecting American say, yeah, I'm gonna vote for the president that's gonna keep the borders open and let millions of people coming over here, and I see women and children being taken advantage of? I'm just asking. Maybe you don't like one party or another. I never tell you guys what to do. I just try to give you my rationale. I tell you guys to vote your interest, but I knew what I didn't want. I know how I didn't want to live. I might as well go back to South Central if I wanted lawlessness. I don't want the whole of America to turn into the ghetto. But what do you think happens when you allow people to come up here who don't play by your rules? Uncontrolled migration and failed assimilation do more harm to a country than anything else. Now, I'm going to share some videos with you all because, you know, some of y'all don't believe fat meat is greasy. So I'm going to let the videos show for themselves. You guys, I want you to see what these Europeans are running away from. I want you to see for yourself exactly what these Europeans have been experiencing. And you tell me, you tell me how you would feel. Okay, this is where I'm at. All right, this is what they're dealing with. Look at that. These are migrants just running the street, and now the people have had to just kind of take over and take the law in their own hand and become vigilantes to try to stop all the crazy stuff that they see going on in their countries. Let me see if I got another one for you. Boom, here we go.
Crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube.
Look at
From
that.
the gang called niggas with attitudes. When I'm called off, I got a sawed off. Squeeze the trigger,
Look at that.
their bodies are hauled off.
These people have gotten so mad that they're taken to the streets, and this is recently where they're literally running the migrants up out of there.
True boy, if you fuck with me, the
Look at
police are gonna have to come and get me off your ass. That's how I'm going out. For the punk motherfuckers that's showing out, niggas want to mumble. They want to rumble. Mix them and cook them in a
That acapella in the background, that NWA acapella in the background.
gumbo. Going off on the motherfucker like that. With a gat that's pointed at your ass. So give it up smooth. Ain't no telling when I'm down for a jack move. Here's a murder rap to keep ya dancing. With a crime record like Charles Manson.
Look at that. They running them up out of there. So, you know, over there, you've had a rise of what they call right-wing, I guess they call it right-wing vigilantism or something like that. Not vigilante, but listen to this guy. Listen, I don't know their leaders, but I'm just going off what I see.
Even more determined than ever to restore our unique country through a great repeal act when Labour falls at the next election. I don't particularly care if we're liked by the rest of the world. I care if we're respected. Because right now, Britain is a joke, and it has been for some time. I want the British government to put the British people at the top of the agenda. Yeah. We should make no apologies for that. Learn from Trump. Let's be unapologetic.
You hear what they said? Learn from Trump. You hear what he's saying? So the rest of the world is learning from America. And now, let me tell you what's going to happen. They're going to go back over there and they say, you know what? We want to live like that. They want Costco over there now. This is what they're going to say.
Apologetically patriotic. Slash tax across the board. Enforce the border. Deport those with no right to be here. Accept biological reality. Fight back against wokery. Bulldoze nonsensical foreign aid.
He said fight back against wokery. He's just making up.
Eradicate DEI. Deliver sensible infrastructure. Carpet bomb public sector waste. Brutally crack down on crime. And plenty more. Let's make Great Britain great again. Thank you.
Yeah. And I really don't understand. You know, I understand where these people are coming from. Look, I don't let's see what this brother has to say. You guys hit the #1 button.
Over 605,000 deportations, 1.9 million more packed up and left on their own. That's over 2.5 million people who are no longer here illegally. And here's the one that should stop you in your tracks. For the first time in over 50 years, the United States had a negative net migration. 50 years. Right. That means more people left this country than came in. Because when you enforce the law works. They told you it.
Now, I just want you to understand, this brother got a dashiki on. This brother got a dashiki on. He must be part South African. Because those South Africans feel the same way. They are getting them folk up out of there. But let's keep listening.
Couldn't be done. They said the border was too broken, too complicated, too political. No, it was just too convenient. The same people who called enforcement cruel are now watching 2.5 million people leave without a single policy they supported. And they'll reap the benefits. This isn't cruelty. This isn't racism. This is what a country looks like when it decides to take itself seriously again. That's how you make America great.
Is it racism to want to protect your borders? I'm just asking. Is it racism to want to protect your borders? Because we can hear this man say it, right? We hear this fella say it. And you can't say he's a racist, but then, you know, you hear this lady say it or somebody like Donald Trump. I'm just asking questions. Y'all let me
mate, fuck them all.
Yeah, go again, love. And if you saw someone of colour here right now, what would you say to him? What's your favourite immigrant?
Good one.
This is a white
country.
Yeah.
We don't need blacks. We don't need fucking Islam. We don't need.
Now, look, she don't like blacks. She don't want nobody over there. And it sounds pretty racist to me. And she's got a lot of umph with it. But you hear the same thing coming from other black people, you know, who, and again, I didn't know they had this many black people in Great Britain, but take a listen to this.
The United States has been complaining, at least privately, that Europe is not pulling its weight on defense. President Trump may be unorthodox in how he speaks to us, but there are forces at play here that are much larger than his presidency. The mirror that he is holding up to Europe, and that we find so uncomfortable to look in, is showing us that without the United States, we cannot properly defend ourselves. At present,
Europe can't even protect its own borders, much less defend itself from places like Russia. Think about that.
European strategic autonomy is a fairy tale. Even parts of our own British nuclear deterrent are dependent on America. Whether these shifting stands are being driven by Donald Trump doesn't matter. Britain's response and the actions we must now take are the same either way. We must reassert ourselves as a serious power in the world.
Again, Europe can't even protect its own borders, much less exert power around the world. And so again, when you have Europeans that come to the United States and say, wow, this is it. This is what we wanted. This is our
Show
dream.
our allies what we bring to the table. Show our enemies that we are ready to defend ourselves. If we do not, we will have no say in whatever comes next.
No, they won't. But you know, and one of the reasons Trump said, "No, we got to get these borders together," is because that's not how we're gonna roll. You know, take a listen to this.
The white dominions, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, especially as you're seeing they're starting to speed run. They're starting to come out of their crouch and basically just be like, yeah, actually, in the 21st century, I think they've increased the population of Canada by like 35%.
They're talking about the increase of European people from the global south coming to places like Canada and these other quote unquote white countries. Now, I would disagree that America was ever a white country because it always had black people and brown people here. They came with and before most Europeans. But the bottom line is, you know, these folks are getting angry, and I understand why. They're losing their country. I mean, I'm just saying, this is what I see. This is what they're saying. And so they come to the United States.
We might be
and say,
more
wow,
pliable in terms of increasing like expenditure on defence, but nobody actually believes the British government is going to be spending 5% of GDP on defence in the next few years. They don't have the capacity to deliver it, even a Conservative government, certainly this government. If we go then to the cultural question and the whole notion of like soft power, which I think is a problematic concept in itself, but what use is our culture in this world? People like watching BBC programmes, or some of them anyway, around the world. They like listening to some of the music that used to be produced in this country and still is quite popular, like the Beatles or whatever. But this is not, it's not meaningful in the world as it is. In the world as it is, not just Britain, but Europe is in decline. There's a divergence that's taken place between Europe and the United States since the crash, essentially. It's partly financial, it's partly the US shale boom. You can just see, if you look at what happens to GDP per capita in the United States after the crash.
So all that being said, Europe is in decline. They've been overrun by foreigners who don't share their culture. Shout out to Paul. Thank you so much. They've been overrun by foreigners who don't share their culture. And Paula, thank you, Paula. I'm going to read all the super chats later. And so this is what they're dealing with. And so when they come to the United States, they're like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. And, you know, it clearly has them shook. Okay. Now, I would like, and look, you can search online and you can look at, you know, what's going on in Europe. I don't want to do too much here because I don't want to get this broadcast demonetized, because I have a bigger point. What America has to learn from Europe, okay? Number one, we learn that we have it going on, as they say. In other words, we have a good thing going here. And if you weren't convinced of that before, just go to TikTok and look at all these people who've come to visit our country. okay, and see how their response to being here and just experiencing the World Cup in America. We are the place that is really the epitome of civilization, okay? All right? And America needs to learn from Europe that illegal immigration isn't just a border issue, it's a civilization issue. When large numbers of foreign-born newcomers arrive in a community with different languages and customs and religions and political assumptions, they have different family structures, they have different expectations of government, and you know, the community is going to change. But people don't arrive, look, people don't arrive as blank slates. They bring their children with them, they bring their trauma, they bring their habits, they bring their loyalties and their voting patterns and their economic needs and their cultural expectations and the assumptions about law and authority. And the research shows that immigration pressure is almost is the most severe at the local level. Okay, in major cities, in 2022, about 62% of migrants in countries studied lived in large metropolitan regions, compared to about 45% of the native born. In other words, they come crowd out to cities and they bring more problems to already overcrowded cities. And so when large and mid-sized metropolitan areas are combined, 84% of migrants live in those areas, compared with 75% of native-born residents. And that means the practical burden doesn't spread evenly across the country. Look, Chicago is dealing with it. Philly is dealing with it. Baltimore is dealing with it. Houston is dealing with it. It lands on specific cities and school districts and hospitals and police departments and rental markets and transit systems and welfare offices and working class neighborhoods. In the United States, that's usually Black American neighborhoods. Somebody type FBA in the chat room. And this is where these studies become very important. The National Academics or Academies major report on immigration in the US found a long-term impact on immigration. They impact wages and employment for native-born workers. Overall is generally small, but when negative effects appear, they fall most heavily on prior immigrants and native-born workers without high school diplomas. And that means the people most likely to feel labor market competition are not going to be your doctors and lawyers and engineers. It's not going to be those politicians giving those lofty speeches and putting those ugly libraries in Chicago, okay? Those commemorative libraries that look like some sort of obelisk that they're praying to Satan in. I don't know what that was about, but it's another subject. But again, that first generation of immigrants is more costly to the government, especially at the state and local level, largely because of the public education costs for their children. They haven't paid into the system, and now the local system has to account for their education, their health, etc. Now, the second born generation, that becomes they become the strongest fiscal contributors. So the honest conclusion isn't that immigration has no benefit, but the honest conclusion is that the benefits and the costs are unevenly distributed, and the costs hit local taxpayers and working class communities the hardest. So people are struggling, okay? They're struggling already, and then you throw a bunch of people who don't speak the language, who are taking the low-paying jobs, and it creates a problem. And that's what we are dealing with. Well, that's what Europe is dealing with, because, I mean, there is no way they can deal with all those people. I mean, you got 1 million people, 1 million new people inside of that small area, and it's already overcrowded. I mean, what are they gonna do? You know, it's a tough spot that they're in. But the other thing is this. Well, let me say it like this. The Europeans feel it. Let me just say, immigration requires balance, and mass immigration without assimilation changes the receiving country. It just turns it into something else. And Europe is a warning for America. That a nation can be generous, but we don't need to be reckless. And we've been reckless under a certain party. And welcoming people we can do that, but let's not be naive and And we can be compassionate, but we don't have to surrender control of our civilization. If you like America, if you want it to be here for your children, okay, if you want it to be better for your children, then you have to begin to take a full account of what we're doing right now. Now, I want to talk to my FBA brothers and sisters. And for you all who don't know what the FBA is, that's the Black people who've been here. We're not talking about the immigrants who judge. We're talking about the foundational Black. We're talking about the Black people who've been here when the first, they were settlers, okay? Somebody type FBA in the chat room. We are in a very unique position. We aren't immigrants. We're not guests. We're not visitors. We're people who arrived. We weren't people who arrived after the house is already built and then begged to get into the room. That's not us. That's not who we are, okay? And this is not about hating on immigrants. It's about refusing to let immigrants' narratives erase Black American history. You can acknowledge that immigrants, without pretending immigrants built America, and from the beginning, okay? They didn't, all right? The foundation was already here, and Black Americans were part of that foundation before the mass immigration ever became the story. And that distinction matters because the Civil Rights era changed American immigration. The Hart-Celler Act of 1965, it formally abolished racism or racial quotas for immigration, all right? And the Hart-Celler Act is the law that erased America's longstanding policy of limiting immigration based on national origin. And that law didn't happen in a vacuum. It came in the same civil rights atmosphere that produced the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Acts of 1965, and the Civil Rights Act banned discrimination and employment and segregation in public schools and libraries and swimming pools. In other words, the moral authority created by Black Americans or foundational Black Americans and our success and our struggle, that's what opened the door for the broader legal transformation in America. We open that door. In other words, what I'm trying to explain to all the Black people, we open that door. We convince these white folk who we've been over here with for hundreds of years to say, hey, you know what, we need to let some more people. Now, our thinking was we can let these folk in and they'll come in and they'll help out and, you know, they'll assimilate. That's not what happened. They came over here and they have not been what we thought they would be. But again, before that transformation, America was overwhelmingly white and Black. The 1960 Census report said that white Americans were about 88.6% of the population, and Black people were about 9%, okay? That's it. Black people were, at that time, we were about 18 million people. Out of 179 million people, we're about 18%. That's about 10%. And that means before 1965, the central racial and political question in America was not Black and brown, it was Black and white. Specifically, it was foundational Black American, Black and white. It was the descendants of enslaved Africans and the intermix and the admixture and people who had dealt with segregation, who had been exploited and who've been excluded. Bottom line is we earned our citizenship. We didn't come over here, somebody dropped off a baby, and then we anchored ourselves to that. And you need to understand that's the historical frame people keep trying to blur. They want to act like every non-white group entered the American story at the same time, under the same conditions, carrying the same burden. That's false. Foundational Black Americans were invented here. You understand? In other words, we've been here. We didn't choose this country as an opportunity. This country chose our labor, it stole it, built wealth from it, and then had to be forced through war, amendment, protest, litigation, and our straight up patriotism and dedication. Then they rewarded us our full citizenship. But we were Americans before we were citizens. That's what the 14th Amendment was about. There's been a big deal about birthright citizenship. We were Americans before we were citizens. We were Americans without citizenship. That's what Clarence Thomas was talking about in his order. Him and Ketanji Brown went around. Oh, no, she's just, Don't want to say anything bad about it, but the bottom line is Dred Scott was a Supreme Court decision that had to be overturned. Happened after the Civil War. Because it was that case that told black people who were American citizens that we had no rights. We didn't have the rights of which a white man was bound to respect. So Justice Clarence Thomas, in his dissent in Barber v. Trump, he put emphasis on that history for that reason. The Reconstruction overruled Dred Scott first through Civil Rights Act of 1866 and then through Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment because black Americans were Americans. He said specifically, they or we had no other homeland, owed no allegiance to any other foreign power. We were subject to no other authority. That's the part people want to skip over. The Citizenship Clause was born from the constitutional evil done to black Americans. Our great nation had finally admitted that people who built the country, bled in all of its wars, raised its crops, cleared its land, nursed its children, cooked its food, built its wealth, and survived its terror belong here as a matter of constitutional right. So our citizenship is not some paperwork. It's not the same as a visa. It's not the same as an asylum application. It's not the same as a TPS or a green card. It's not even the same as a naturalized citizen. And it's certainly not the same as flying over here pregnant and dropping a baby off at the local hospital. That's not what we have. These people treat American citizenship like a prize at the end of a travel package. Foundational Black American citizenship was earned. It was earned through generations of hard work. Somebody type hard work in the chat room. It was earned through generations of blood, sweat, and war fighting, and terror, and resistance, and patience, and hard-fought court battles, and ancestral sacrifice. Our people look, other people get granted citizenship, but they didn't earn their citizenship the way FBA earned ours. This is why we can't allow our status, our very special status, to be pimped by these outsiders just because of the color of their skin, or because they are a quote unquote POC. These people get a foothold, right? We provide a foothold, they use that foothold, and then they let everybody else in the door. And the danger isn't just immigration, the danger is dilution. You understand? This is what's going on. See, that Supreme Court in v. Barber Trump, the birthright citizenship, it was truly a slap in foundational Black Americans' face. But you all are so bedazzled by Ketanji Jackson Brown. You think, oh yeah, we won. You are just befuddled by the Liberal Party, right? Oh yeah, we won. That was a slap in FBA's face. It totally erased all of our history and the meaning behind that. We earned it. We're not just going to give this, the dissent was basically, and we're not just going to give citizenship away. Do you know what these Black Americans had to do to get it? They slaved, they toiled, they fought in all the wars, and you just going to give it away to somebody who dropped a baby off over here? Somebody type anchor baby in the chat room. Any anchor baby is worth as much as your citizen, the citizenship that your family waited in line for, voted for, died for, got lynched for. Anybody who flies over here from any country could just drop a baby off. This Chinese billionaire with 100 baby mamas that he sent over, his children, their sacrifice is worth as much as yours. What does citizenship mean? Are you all listening to me? You should be very, very upset. Our claim is now adjacent to the immigrant claim for citizenship. Our reparations claim is blurred. Our civil rights protections are generalized. Set-asides get broadened. Historical debt becomes diversity. Black American lineage becomes people of color. And before long, the people whose ancestors actually paid the price are standing in line behind people whose family arrived after the doors were bust wide open and after the struggle was over. That's why delineation matters. Somebody type delineation in the chat room. That's why it matters. That's why it matters. We are distinct and different people. Foundational Black Americans are drawing lines because history taught us what happens when we don't. If Black Americans don't define ourselves, someone else will define us in a way that benefits them, not us. See, after Reconstruction, Black folk trusted the amendments and the alliances and the moral appeals would protect us. But when the federal protection was withdrawn, which is what you just see happen with that Barber v. Trump case, guess what happened? Political deals get made. Black people were sacrificed. Rights without enforcement failed us. Integration without power failed us. Coalitions without leverage failed us. And the lesson isn't ancient history, it's survival knowledge. And this is why I reject the lazy phrase shared struggle. Black Americans we can empathize with people without pretending that their story is our story. A person who's voluntarily comes here, even from poverty, war, or hardship, isn't the same as people brought here in chains and then forced to fight for centuries to be recognized as citizens in a land that they built. Again, we were Americans before we were citizens. Look, immigrants contribute, but contribution isn't foundation. Arrival isn't lineage. Opportunity isn't inheritance, and legal status acquired after entry isn't the same as a constitutional belonging purchased by generations of Black hard work and sacrifice. Somebody type hard work in the chat room. Are you all with me? Are y'all listening to this? But again, that's why the foundational Black American perspective carries weight in the immigration debate. We have a unique historical relationship with America. You understand? We don't have another homeland to be deported to. Matter of fact, if they tried to deport us, we would fight them, and they know it. That's why they leave us alone. That's the difference between us and them. Our labor made the American dream possible. And this is where Sister Barbara Jordan comes in. Somebody type Barbara Jordan. Look, I want y'all to understand something. Our leaders have been talking about this for years. If you don't know who Barbara Jordan is, but let me let this video play. I want you all to understand who this sister is. She's from a very well-respected politician. Rest in peace. Fair use.
We strongly denounce the hostility which seems to be developing around immigrants. That is not healthy. We cannot sustain ourselves as a nation if we condone divisiveness in this society of immigrants. At the same time, we disagree with those who label our efforts to control immigration as anti-immigrant. I believe quite firmly that we can quiet and dampen the flames which are surrounding public opinion where immigration is concerned, because people on both sides of this issue have engaged in too much hyperbole. We have got to put the matter of immigration back on a civil course. We have got to know that immigration really goes to the heart of who we are as a nation. If we are confident enough as Americans in our culture, we should welcome the legal immigrant. We should be able to accommodate diversity in our society. Are we strong enough to welcome those who ought to be in and retain a commitment to the rule of law by keeping those out who shouldn't get in? If we ought to preserve our immigration tradition and our ability to say yes to the people who want to get in and seek entry, we've got to have the strength to say no to the people who are not supposed to get in.
Does that sound racist to you? Do you think who amongst you all think that Barbara Jordan is racist? The Honorable Barbara Jordan. Do you think she's racist for saying that? Or is this good old-fashioned common sense? See, this is back when Democrats actually spoke common sense. You understand? This is back before all of that crazy left wing, those talking points took over. This is when we talk. Is she racist too? I mean, I'm just asking questions. Is she racist too? Is Barbara Jordan racist for saying, hey, we need to protect our borders? Let's let the Honorable Barbara Jordan finish speaking.
We need to make deportation a part of a credible immigration policy. As a nation committed to immigrants and the rule of law, we've got to do that balancing act. The most urgent immigration problem we face today is the unauthorized entry of hundreds of thousands of illegals. That
you hear what she said? She called them unauthorized. That was not illegal. You understand? So same problem. This is 95. Same issue.
Undermines our commitment to legal immigration. Although the illegal alien may be generally law-abiding, and particularly in good economic times, maybe we need the illegals, their entry in violation of the law is a violation of our national interest. We believe she
said their mere presence is in violation, goes against our natural interest. Now, again, Barbara Jordan's warning becomes important because Barbara Jordan wasn't some right-wing extremist. She was a black woman from Houston, Texas, 5th Ward, HBCU graduate, Texas Southern University. She was a constitutional thinker and one of the most respected public officials in American history. As chair of the U.S. Commission on Immigration Reform, her position was simple. Immigration policy must respect the rule of law. Illegal immigration creates jobs magnet, and the people hurt first are low-skilled American workers. And let me tell you what she really understood. She understood that enforcement wasn't cruelty, it was labor protection. And for black workers, specifically black men without degrees, that's who she was trying to protect. For all you black folks who decide to run over there to the Liberal Party and you were going to vote for Kamala Harris, that was probably the silliest thing you could have done. If you have a son or an uncle or a husband or a family member, when jobs decrease, incarceration increases. Again, black folk, I'm not here to tell you how to vote. That's none of my business. I'm just here to lay the issues out and let you make your own common sense determination. You can call Trump racist. You can call some of the other administrators racist, but can you call Barbara Jordan racist? She is from the roots. You understand? She was trying to protect Black Americans. She was trying to protect foundational Black Americans. And see, that's Black economic realism right there. I'm going to let the Honorable Barbara Jordan continue speaking.
The credible approach to immigration must be comprehensive. First, border management. We support a very simple view about border management: prevent illegal entries, facilitate legal ones.
Very simple. Prevent illegal entry, support legal. That sounds like Trump to me. Is that racist? Somebody type MAGA in the chat room. Does Barbara Jordan sound like she's MAGA? I'm just asking questions. Because this is the same thing that Trump was saying, and y'all called him racist. I just thought, well, seems like common sense to me. I guess it could be racist, but damn. Seems like a smart thing to do. If you guys don't believe it, just go ahead and open your front door and just keep it open. Matter of fact, take the front door off of your house. If you believe that it's racist to keep people out that you don't want in, go ahead and open your front door. Somebody type open your front door. And look, I am a lifelong Democrat. I've only voted for 2 presidential candidates. And that has been Donald Trump, part 2 and 3. I didn't even vote for 1. He was a loose cannon. I didn't know. Who was this guy? Who was this guy? This guy is, you mean Trump? You mean the guy with the buildings and the gold plated? I didn't do it. But after I realized I'm paying less taxes under Trump, I mean, I'd already paid less taxes under Bush, still voted against the Republicans. And again, I vote a mixed ticket. I vote my interest. So that means if there's a Democrat that I like, I vote locally, typically. But in this particular situation, the Republicans have the win when it comes to immigration, and that's probably the most pressing thing. Did you see Europe? Did you see how these Europeans are responding to being over here in America, where they can walk down the street and not have people running up on them trying to steal their watches and their cell phones and their glasses? I mean, did you look at the SA rate in those European countries? It is not even safe for women over there. I'm just asking questions. That you all do what you want to do. I don't know who I'm gonna vote for this year. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Okay, but I'm going to vote my interest, and all I'm asking you all to do is consider voting your interest, whatever it may be.
Second part of our strategy: work site enforcement. Employment, we believe, continues to be the principal magnet for illegal aliens coming into the country. As long as U.S. businesses benefit from illegals on their workforce, they are not going to try to help us get on top of the problem. We believe that employer sanctions must be made to work, and enhanced labor standards enforcement essential components of a strategy to reduce the job magnet. The third part of our recommendations: immigrant eligibility for public benefits. That's a major one. The Commission believes that decisions about eligibility should support the objectives of immigration policy.
In other words, we don't need immigrants, illegal immigrants on welfare. That's what they're saying. The American taxpayer should not have to pay for illegal immigrants to utilize Social Security, welfare, etc. Is that racist? I mean, look, this is Barbara Jordan. Are you all saying Barbara? She's saying the same thing Trump's saying. I know y'all say he's racist, and maybe he is. I don't know. I don't know. The racists think he's racist, but if Barbara Jordan is saying the same thing he's saying, you would call her MAGA if she was alive this day, wouldn't y'all? Somebody type "Make America Great Again." Somebody type "America is great." I don't believe we need to make America great again. I believe America is great right now. Somebody type "right now" in the chat room. Okay, I don't confuse America's moral dilemma with its greatness. It's still great. Matter of fact, if a moral dilemma eliminates a country from a nation from being great, then we got to take Spain off the list. Rome, we got to take ancient Persia, we got to take the Byzantine Empire off. We damn sure got to take Genghis Khan off of there. He can't even mention him. We got to remove Greece, we got to remove the UK, we got to take Egypt off there because they had slaves too. It's so many other. We got to take China. No part of China can be great if we are holding a country greatness hostage based on the crimes it has committed. Russia can never be there. No part of Russia ever. Not the empty part in Siberia or the part close to Germany. I'm just saying. So in my opinion, my humble opinion, America is great now. Okay. But that's just a thought. I'll deal with that later. But again, this lady is saying that this beautiful, honorable woman who was well respected is saying the same thing. And it made sense then, makes sense now to me. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself, why is it all of a sudden when you hear somebody like this say it, right? Let's listen.
There's nobody in the Senate that can lecture me on immigration. This is not a political issue. I've lived it my whole life. This is not immigration. 3.3 million people released into the country. 5 to 10,000 people a day illegally arriving in the country. That's not immigration.
For you all who don't know, this is Marco Rubio. He probably is going to run for president. He ran for president against Trump the first time. He was a young senator. He's well respected. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but it's probably going to be him, J.D. Vance, or some variation of that. But again, the issues that are important to me, that's what I'm voting for. Maybe y'all want to vote for Gavin Newsom. Go ahead. Maybe Kamala Harris is running again. Y'all can vote for who you want. I don't tell people what to do over here. You grown. Okay. I let you grown here. Okay. But go visit California. I want you to, there's a beautiful street called Hope Street, downtown Los Angeles. I want y'all to go hang out on Hope Street. And it's a very Hopi place to hang out. And you'll see just how amazing Gavin Newsom has been for a president or the governor of California. You go check that out. And then there's some beautiful property in Palisades. It's been freshly cleared. Go check that out, and you'll see just how well California has been managed by Gavin Newsom. Go check that out. If you want to, go ahead, enjoy yourself. I'm just here to listen. Let's listen to Rubio finish.
Immigration is a good thing. Mass migration is a bad thing. And that's what this is. This is a mass migration, and it's not good for anyone. It's not even good for the migrants, many of whom are raped and killed along the way. It's good for the traffickers. It's good for the enemies of this country, but it's not good for the migrants. This is mass migration. And it reminds people, say, well, if you're against this and you want to be strict about immigration, that's anti-immigrant, which is silly. At least they say it to me. But I remember, I'm not anti-rain. I think rain is a good thing. I think we need rain, right? I'm anti-flood. I'm not against the rain, I'm against flooding. Does being against flooding make you anti-rain? No. And being against mass migration does not make you anti-immigration. Because mass migration is not immigration.
That right there is one.
Look, again, if you think that dude is MAGA or racist, let me just remind you. Let me take you right back here to Barbara Jordan. Let's go right back to Barbara Jordan, okay? Because she's saying the same thing he's saying, okay? Except, it's coming from a different package. You have a middle-aged black woman there. You had a middle-aged Hispanic man. Okay, but they're saying the same thing.
As a measure of benefit policy, we come to the following conclusions. First, legal permanent residents should continue to be eligible for needs-tested assistance programs. Mm-hmm. Our views on eligibility for benefits of illegal aliens are different from those benefits that are recommended for legal aliens. If an alien is in this country lawfully, he should receive whatever benefits a lawful resident receives. But if a person is here unlawfully, he should be entitled to no benefits.
Somebody type no welfare. Is that racist? Is Barbara Jordan, is the honorable Barbara Jordan racist for saying no benefits for people here illegally? Is that racist? Because I'm just saying, these are the type of Democrats that I grew up with. I might have been in college when she was in office. Didn't know how much of a jewel she was. Okay? Didn't know. Right? This was good common sense. We're all Americans. We're going to figure out a way to make this thing work. America still works. Okay? That's what I'm trying to explain to you all. America still works. If we it's delicate. It's very delicate. You get a couple of crazies up there who think they just want to exercise their own purview and just do what they want to do. And I'm going to do it because I say so. Next thing you know, we have the southern border flooded because they want to get reelected. They're so hell-bent on holding on to power, they'll allow our states to be flooded with illegal immigrants just so they can turn around and count them for the census so that they can have more representatives in the House of Representatives. I'm just saying. So Americans with good common sense, again, I'm not telling you who to vote for. Vote Republican, vote Democrat. I'm saying vote your interest. That's it. That's all I say. Okay. But if you're going to call Rubio and President and Trump, all these people racist for their policies. Let's go back to what the Honorable Barbara Jordan said. Is she racist too? Or is this just some media propaganda because they're trying to scare you or make you vote in a way that they want you to vote just so they can exert control over you? Because that's what their handlers are telling them to do. It's just a thought. Out of respect, I'm gonna let the Honorable Barbara Jordan finish. I will post this up on my Instagram page so you all can go over there and download it yourself, because you need this. You need this just to remind yourself of what a real American, a real patriot looks like. Okay, especially my foundational Black Americans, because we've been brainwashed to go too far left with the crazies. And again, I have some Democratic views and some, I don't even consider myself a conservative, but golly, common sense has to prevail. All right, but let's keep listening.
No benefits. Why the distinction between the eligibility of legal aliens and illegals? Illegal aliens don't have the right to be here. They broke the law to get here. They never intended to become a part of our social community.
They broke the law to get here. So you're saying what the liberals have been saying on some of these channels is that, oh, no human being is against the law. Barbara Jordan said they broke the law, and she is a lawyer, and she was a former prosecutor, so she would know. They broke the law to get here, so they're already in violation. That's what Barbara Jordan is saying. I'm gonna go with Barbara Jordan instead of these young yahoos that went to school on the East Coast somewhere and have no idea what real Americans are having to deal with.
And they are not entitled to benefits. They have no intention to integrate.
There it is. They have no intention to integrate. So, hey, shout out to the Honorable Barbara Jordan. But look, it didn't even start there. Okay. Look, Frederick Douglass understood the same thing after slavery. He understood that freedom without economic opportunity was incomplete. And after emancipation, formerly enslaved Black people wanted wages, land, and a chance to support their families. But powerful interests preferred cheap labor from outside the country because foreign labor could undercut Black workers at the very moment Black Americans were trying to enter the economy as free people. And so they were trying to bring foreigners in, even back during slavery. Ever since we stopped working for free, they've been trying to bring somebody in to do it for cheaper than we were willing to do it. But again, that doesn't mean Frederick Douglass hated immigrants. That certainly doesn't mean that man was racist. It means he understood power. He understood labor. He understood that immigration could be used as a tool against Black advancement. Again, this has to do with all Americans, but I know my audience. And the only reason people like Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party even stand a chance is because Black people have voted for them as one continuous block of people just blindlessly for the past 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years. So we have to begin to talk to Black people. And all I'm asking you to do, I'm not asking you to vote one way or the other. I'm saying just vote your interests. And if you begin to educate yourself and understand your interests, and you can call me boule or a coon or a sellout, but at the end of the day, I'm a foundational Black American and I'm a patriot. And I love America. I love our country. We got a great thing going on here and we need to hold on to it. I've traveled enough around the world to realize this country is the best place for foundational Black Americans. It's the best place for us. You don't want to go anywhere else. If you don't believe me, go ask those Europeans that came to visit us during those soccer matches. They were bedazzled by Sonics and Walmart. Are you kidding me? Just think about that. But anyway, Frederick Douglass understood that we needed these jobs. We didn't need to have our society flooded with illegal immigrants who would change the makeup of America. They wouldn't assimilate, and they would do jobs that we wouldn't do for far less money. And when immigration worked against Black people, he didn't stay silent. Okay, he didn't just go along to get along. So when I say foundational Black Americans must protect our position, forget all them other people. I'm not saying anything new. I'm standing inside a long list of Black political tradition. That tradition says legal immigration isn't the problem per se. The problem is when immigration is used to erase our history and compete against our workers and dilute our political claims and to redirect public resources and guilt into us, trying to get us to fight their battles. They don't center Black American survival, do they? Do immigrants center foundational Black American survival? See, the problem is when people arrive after the struggle, when the immigrants arrive after the country's built, because we built this country, white Americans built this country, heritage Americans built this country, foundational Black Americans built this country. We weren't called immigrants either. We were called settlers and slaves. Somebody type settlers and slaves in the chat room. That's who built it. Immigrants showed up after it had been settled and the work had been done. Okay? I'm not taking anything away from their contribution, but they did not build this country despite what that screaming Haitian lady said. Now, again, okay, the problem is when people arrive after the work is done and benefit from that and then talk down to the people who struggle made their opportunity possible. Somebody type work harder in the chat room. You see? And foundational Black Americans have to stop apologizing for having boundaries. Every group has them. Immigrants have them. They have hometown associations, language networks, business circles, family chains. But the moment Black Americans say we're a specific people, we have a specific claim, suddenly we're divisive. We're being xenophobic. No, we're being precise. We are in a catch-all category and a moral resource for every movement that needs a civil rights backdrop. Again, even though the 14th Amendment has been stripped from its historical meaning and turned into this global loophole for people to sneak their way into the country and get citizenship, we're allowed to say what the historical inheritance means to us. We're allowed to say that our citizenship wasn't an accident of geography, but an actual correction of a constitutional injustice. We're allowed to say that turning that inheritance that we fought for, that we earned, into a device for mass entry and birth tourism and political dilution is offensive to the people whose ancestors paid for the inheritance in blood. So America can look, America can have immigration, but Black Americans must have delineation. Foundational Black Americans can be humane, but we don't need to be foolish. We can be compassionate without being used. And we can be fair without surrendering our inheritance. Our citizenship wasn't given to us by charity. We earned it. And we keep earning it over and over and over again. And that's why our voice and our perspective matters. That's why they keep coming at us. They keep trying to get Black folks off the bench. Somebody type, we're resting in the chat room. The Haitians want us to come save us. The Hispanics wanted us to come save. We're resting. We don't ever need to allow anybody, immigrant, politician, activist, judge, scholar, sorority sister, media personality, actor, entertainer. We don't ever need to allow them to use our hard-fought status as a foothold while pushing us back to the back of the very house that our ancestors fought and died for. We're Americans first. Foundational Black women, we're not immigrant. We don't hate anybody. But we are also anti-erasure and we're anti-dilution. Stop letting them convince you to vote against your own interests. That's all I'm asking. At least think about what's in your interest. We're anti being used as the door for people to enter this country. They used us. They took our 14th Amendment and they perverted it. So now that anybody who drops a baby off in this country can have immigration, they can have a citizenship. One of the only places in the world where that happens. They used us just like they used us for Social Security. For welfare. They keep so Black people on welfare. Come to find out there's a bunch of Somalians and Africans and people from the Caribbean on welfare. It's not even foundational Black Americans. Think about that. That's the difference between welcoming people into a country and allowing them, those same people, to rewrite the history of the people who made that welcome possible. That's the difference between legal immigration and political replacement. I'm gonna be honest with you. Some of those people who came over here from those soccer matches, from Germany and some of those other places, and they educated people. They speak English. Obviously, they speak multiple languages. They have money. They fly in first class. They go in different places. They drinking all the beer out of Boston. I might be okay with having some of those people over here. Much rather than having 1 million walk up here from the southern border with criminal. I mean, you just literally have the same thing that happened with the Mariala boat lift, where Cuban dictator Fidel Castro hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray Jimmy Carter. Yeah, we sent all the Cubans. So he opened up all the jails, put these people on boats. Folks from Miami went down to Cuba to pick up their relatives. And instead of picking up their relatives, he sent all the criminals in Cuba up to South Miami, to Florida. That's the same thing they did with Venezuela. They just opened up the jails and prisons and sent all the crazies up here. Those are not the type of immigrants we want, but that's what illegal immigration looks like. And then little girls suffer, women suffer. Just look at the internet and look at all the people, and I get it. We have our own criminals and crooks here, but we don't need other people's crooks and criminals. Okay, we don't need their crooks and criminals coming there. They got a different kind of crook. The South American crook and criminal is a whole different kind of crook and criminal. We don't need those. But again, there's a difference between legal immigration and political replacement. And there's definitely a difference between respecting this country and simply using this country to get what you can get and go home. And that's the conversation America has been avoiding. Immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean and Haiti and Latin America and Asia and the Middle East have come here in large numbers, and many have worked and built families and opened businesses and earned degrees and contributed to the country. Cool. Nobody denies that. But contribution doesn't give anyone the right to disrespect the people who are here before them, especially the descendants of enslaved Black Americans whose labor, suffering, military service, lawsuits, protests, churches, schools, political movements cracked open the door for the legal structure for all these people to walk through. You don't get to arrive after the battle, benefit from the victory, and then act like the soldiers who fought the war are standing in your way. Again, we need to eliminate this shared struggle. The phrase POC, people of color, it needs to be eliminated from the Black vernacular. We are not a people of color. See, they use that word shared struggle to put emotional pressure on Black Americans to go along with this Democratic agenda that they have. Again, I vote for some Democrats. I vote for some Republicans. Some people I just sit on the couch. I'll go in line. I can't vote for that person. I'll skip that person. But see, here's the thing. Here's how they use racism against us. They tell us that because we're brown or because we're Black, because we have relatives who are poor, or we might, we're supposed to identify with them because they're from a struggling country. These people don't even like us like that. But it makes us automatically obligated to lend our outrage and our language and our history and our political capital and our civil rights inheritance. They make us seem like did you not hear? I've repeated this at least half a dozen times. We earned our citizenship. We have a special voice that no other group has in this country because we earned it. We were Americans before we were citizens. We earned it. They didn't give us our citizenship. So why should we loan it out to a few people just because they came up here, especially without any reciprocity or respect? I mean, you would think these people, the basic humility of these, it should be like, Black Americans made sacrifices and opened doors for us. We shouldn't disrespect them and call them lazy and tell them they're criminal. We shouldn't do that. We walking through the door, they open for us. But they don't. What I'm trying to say is they don't even like you like that. Shout out to to DeStrong. And see, this is where new immigrant communities, you got to be honest too. You come to America. You're not coming to an empty space. You're entering a country with deep racial history and constitutional history and Black American history that predates you. You're entering a house with our blood and bones built in the foundation. And you're entering a society where Black Americans were second-class citizens. We weren't citizens. We were enslaved. We had to deal with getting lynched, experimented on, medical experiments, over-policed, underpaid, excluded, mocked, and then told to be quiet once everyone else found a way to use the rights we fought for. And we just supposed to shut up about it. You don't get to come here to our country and then talk down about Black Americans and call us lazy and tell us to work harder and then call us criminals and entitled and uncultured or inferior, while your own opportunity in this country rests on the legal, cultural ground or background that Black Americans helped create. And that's the source of the tension. Shout out to Big J. Look, it's not about skin color. It's definitely not about xenophobia or hatred. We don't hate anybody. It's the disrespect for me. It's the selective solidarity for me. It's the way a lot of these immigrant groups come still access the Black American identity without accountability to Black American people. They want they want to use our civil rights language, our discrimination framework, our set-aside programs, our diversity infrastructure, our neighborhoods, our culture, our music, our political movements, our moral authority, but they don't want to acknowledge our lineage. And y'all still willing to give them all of it. You still willing to vote for them. Yeah, come on, let's vote for Kamala. Let's 92% Black women, 79% Black women. What was she gonna do that was beneficial for you? All the Black people, I need y'all to come to the front of the room. The woman said she wasn't gonna do anything for Black people. And y'all, how can you expect me to do anything for Black people? And y'all still voted for her. What kind of fools were we? I'm just asking questions, okay? I'm just asking the question. Vote your interest. Somebody type vote your interest in the chat. Well, Uncle D called us fool. No, I'm telling you vote your interest. And that does not sound like your interest to me. Respectfully. See, if they come here, these immigrants come here, and they form hostile enclaves and refuse to integrate and treat Americans with contempt and exploit our public resources and undercut American workers and disrespect Black Americans, then demand protection under rights Black Americans paid for with blood, then you aren't strengthening America, are you? You're weakening it. And the foundational Black Americans we have every right to say we're not going to be used like that anymore. We're not going to let you do that. And you can't get mad at it. See, all these newcomers need to understand that the country that you entered, right? You need to respect the people who made the opportunity possible. It means political leaders, liberals, and conservatives better learn to stop dumping new arrivals into every struggling Black community without resources, jobs, housing, school, and infrastructure already available to the Americans who are there. Somebody type America first in the chat room. Somebody type Americans first in the chat room. And I don't care if you like Trump or not, but it makes it, I'm gonna say America first because I'm an American, straight up. I don't care if you like them or not. It makes no sense to be saying, oh, what, you want America last? That's just stupid. We tell the truth on this page. You can disagree with me, but I'm gonna tell you the God's honest truth. You would be an idiot to be in any other position other than I want America to win and you're an American. You sitting your silly self over here. Employers need to stop using immigrant labor to suppress wages and weaken American workers. It means civil rights organizations like the NAACP, you better stop converting Black American sacrifice into some general diversity fund for everyone except the descendants of the people who actually paid the price. Y'all better cut it out. Mutual respect can't be fake. Mutual respect can't mean Black Americans have to show compassion, but immigrants can show contempt. Somebody type dirty Black American in the chat room. You remember that? Remember that girl said that? Oh, you can't hold us all responsible. Y'all been saying it. Same thing with the Nigerians. Just disrespectful. And y'all act like, boy, vote your interest. Just all I'm saying is vote your interest. But let me just say this. I think that's fair to say the foundation of Black Americans are tired of people extracting our culture and our political energy and our civil rights history and our pain and our slogans and our neighborhoods and our moral authority while giving us nothing back. We're tired of being treated like America's permanent emergency response team. Every time another group has a crisis, they expect Black Americans to show up with outrage and history and tears. But when our communities need protection or investment or safety or justice, suddenly everybody gets quiet. And that arrangement is over. That's over. Now, again, this is where foundational Black Americans have to get honest with ourselves. I want you all to understand why we have become so anti-Marxist. You're going to learn something. I'm going to lay it down to you. I want you to hear it. You may not like what I have to say, but you're going to learn something. Let me explain why you are the way you are. But first, I'm going to let this video play because it is telling. Somebody type telling in the chat room. That means it says a lot. Listen to this from Piers Morgan's show.
Actually answered
the
question. Are you proud to be an American right now?
You know, it's really hard, Pierce, right now when our country is synonymous with executing a genocide that has killed hundreds of thousands of people on the other side of the world. So there are aspects of being an American that I am very proud of.
You're a beautiful girl. I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Hang on.
Are you proud to be an American or not? That's it. Hang on, Brianna. Were you proud to be an American under Barack Obama?
Not in particular. I mean, to me, it wasn't. Barack Obama had deep flaws and failings, including executing a drone war and being the.
So which president were you proud to be an American under?
I think that my pride in being American has less to do with our political leadership, which is often
give me a time period when you were proud to be an American.
I'm proud in relationship to my fellow countrymen.
No, I get it. But which period of your life as an American?
Sad to watch.
Brianna, which period of your life as an American? You spoke very eloquently about your family fighting in all the wars. Very impressive. But at which period of your life would you have answered yes to the question, are you proud to be an American?
Every single day of my life, there are moments that I'm proud to be an American. I had a beautiful interaction.
That's not the same.
Good. What's not the same?
Well, let me bring Brian in. I want to bring Brian in. Brian, you see, there's an interesting equivocation there because
just say you're proud to be an American.
Adam's just proud to be an American. Full stop.
Are there any moments to the gentleman in the bottom left corner where you're not proud to be an American? When you're ashamed of the behaviors of your own country, or do you support America without any caveat 100%?
Somebody type, I'm proud to be an American in the chat room. Somebody type, I'm proud to be an American. Somebody type American pride in the chat room.
At the time, like a loyal slave.
I wish that you loved America the way that the average American did. I really do. It's sad to see.
Are you going to answer my question?
As an example of
Are you a loyal slave, Adam Sosnick? Yes or no?
No, we live in the freest country in the world. Nobody here's a slave. The fact that she had to give this long, beautiful answer rather than saying, yes, I'm proud to be an American.
See, I don't want to, I'm going to save this for later, but you can critique America and still be proud to be an American. Okay? She's not saying she's proud to be an American. Why is that? Because she's not. And that is the anti-American sentiment that I want to deal with next.
All right.
It is pervasive in the quote unquote learned class. There's a book I want everybody, here's some homework. The Miseducation of the Negro. by Carter G. Woodinson, The Miseducation of the Negro. There's a section in that book that specifically talks about the learned elite who are anti-American and anti-capitalist. I want just that's your homework. White people, black people, all people, read that book. It was one of the greatest writings. It's very popular in black intellectual circles. Read that. But let's finish this.
Is a problem, and I think we need to address
America. Or do you slavishly defend it even when it doesn't deserve defending?
Well, why can't you be proud of your country 100%?
America always deserves to be defended, ma'am. But go ahead.
Just be proud to be an American.
That the country has flaws. Let me bring Brian in. Hang on, Brian. Hang on.
Brianna, why is a Brit defending America more than you? You should be a proud American.
Yeah. Okay. So again, all right. Let's answer this question. Where did all this anti-American sentiment come from? Because it wasn't like this. We as foundational Black Americans have been some of the most paid. We literally earned our citizenship. But somewhere after that, things went, what happened? Somebody type what happened in the chat room. What happened? Okay. And this is why I need to talk, because see, we're still dealing with this. All right. And I'm gonna give you the honest assessment of what I feel happens and based on history. Now, this is where FBA have to get honest with ourselves. You can be a Marxist, okay? You can be a socialist, okay? Or you can be an American patriot, but you can't be both. You can't claim, or you can't reap the benefit of living in this country while rooting for its destruction or its economic system. You understand? You can't root against constitutional order or undermine national confidence or hope for the loss of military strength or pray that has weakened borders or loses global power, and then still consider yourself a person who is a patriot. You can criticize America. You can demand reform from America. Our ancestors did that. You can sue America. You can protest in America peacefully. You can vote against leaders in America. We do it all the time. That's all part of being an American. But there's a difference between correcting your house and burning your house down. Foundational Black Americans need to understand that America isn't just the house we live in. It is the only house we have. And I'm proud to be an American. This is the greatest country on the planet and the greatest that has ever existed. And let's stop pretending the rest of the world doesn't know it. The U.S. is still the world's top migrant destination. 17.2% of all international migrants in 2024 came to the United States. That's like 1/5. Every time somebody get on a plane, 1 in 5 of them are going to America, basically from around the world. That means the world is voting with its feet. People aren't risking their lives and spending their money and crossing borders and applying for visas and overstaying visas and claiming asylum and dragging their children across continents because America is the worst country on the earth and not deserving to be proud of. They're doing it because America is still at the top of the global list. And we've watched it in real time during the World Cup. Europeans, Japanese, Africans, visitors coming and they came here expecting whatever they had been told by their media and left shocked by ordinary American abundance. Buc-ee's, Waffle House, Bass Pro Shop, Walmart, free refills, parking lots, air conditioned, road trip culture, customer service, big trucks. These people are amazed. They are amazed by F-150s and Ford Rams and Dodge. You see what I'm saying? The sheer size and the convenience of American life. That's not just tourism. That's a mirror. And sometimes it takes outsiders to remind Americans that what we call normal is extraordinary in too much of the world, even other so-called first world nations. And that's why foundational Black Americans have to end this this lazy anti-American rhetoric. Not because America has been innocent, America hasn't been innocent, but no great country is without its own moral dilemmas. The most important thing to remember is that America is also where we were formed as a new people. We were literally brought here and bred here. We are born here. Our churches are here. Our schools are here. Our historically black colleges are here. Our ancestors' bones are buried in the cemeteries here. Our soldiers fought and died here. Our music was born here. Our language, our humor, our food, our politics, and struggle and survival were shaped here. America isn't just where foundational Black Americans live. America is where we're made as a people. And there's no separate homeland waiting for us. I'm not asking FBAs or foundational Black Americans to pretend nothing happened. I'm saying we have to criticize America as owners, not as strangers. We have to correct America as stakeholders, not as outsiders. We have to stop talking like we're guests in somebody else's country when we aren't guests. We are not immigrants. We are not TPS. We are not temporary. We aren't waiting on another nation to rescue us. If Africa was going to send us a bunch of boats, they would have done it by now. They're not going to do it. We are Americans before we were citizens. Our ancestors helped build the country. We fought for the country in all the wars. We forced constitutional change, and then we built institutions inside the very nation that tried to deny us. That gives us a blood claim to this soil that nobody else can copy. And see, there's a dangerous lie that hating America makes Black people more pro-Black or more conscious. The truth is, it makes us strategically stupid. Somebody type stupid in the chat room. If America collapses, Black Americans don't rise. Y'all do know that, right? If America is weakened, if they let millions and millions of immigrants flood the southern border, does that make America stronger? Does Black America gain power? We don't have a separate army. We don't have a separate currency, a separate navy, a separate legal system, or a separate energy grid, a separate food supply, or a separate international protection. We're inside America. That means America's strength affects our strength. America's weaknesses affect our vulnerability. Look, we have to be honest about this socialist and this Marxist and this anti-American ideology, okay? That language came into Black politics around the 1920s and the 1970s because our people were genuinely suffering. Black people, we were at the height of Jim Crow, we were being lynched, we were afraid, we were cheated out of our land, we were ran off our land, we was dealing with terrorism, it was segregated, we were underpaid, we were over-policed, we were excluded from wealth legally, we couldn't vote, but we tried, bad things happened. So when the socialists and the Marxists talked about class exploitation and labor and capitalism and empire and redistribution, a lot of those Black leaders at the time, they heard that language and explained the real pain. But an idea can explain your pain and still lead you in the wrong direction. A vocabulary isn't a strategy. A slogan, that's not a plan. And resentment is not power. And see, the historical record is clear that parts of Black political thought at the time were influenced by socialist, communist, and Marxist labor and anti-colonial and revolutionary movements during the 1920s or the 20th century. And those ideas entered through Black American thinkers, but many were also sharpened by Caribbean and foreign-born radicals who looked at America from an anti-American lens. They looked at it from a global revolutionary lens. People like Cyril Briggs and Claude McKay and Hubert Harrison and Otis Husworth and Claudia Jones and Kwame Ture. These are all examples of foreign-born or Caribbean-connected figures who helped shape this radical Marxist, socialist, black political language. And those black radicals leaders, they didn't invent black American suffering out of thin air. They didn't invent slavery. We were dealing with something. We were dealing with Jim Crow. We were dealing with police brutality. We were dealing with redlining. We were dealing with segregation, and they responded to real conditions. But in their attempt to define and address the problems Black America was faced with at the time and give some solutions, I guess they were trying to help. What they did was they moved parts of Black politics away from an American-centered fight, okay, to capitalize on our citizenship and ownership and land and family structure and schools and better businesses and legal reform and building better institutions toward this global fight against capitalism, against America, against quote unquote colonialism, and against Western power in general. And that shift matters because foundational Black Americans can't afford to become politically untethered from the only country in the world where we have a constitutional claim and a historical claim and a blood claim. And let's be clear about the numbers. Look, just so you all know, Gallup reported in 2025, just last year, that only 54% of Americans had a positive view of capitalism. And 39% had a positive view of socialism. You see that? Look, Pew found that Black adults view of capitalism. This is you grown-ups. Black adults' views on capitalism have become more negative, from 54% of Black adults expressing a negative view on capitalism in 2022, up from 40% in 2019. It's like the richer y'all get, the more you hate capitalism. That is crazy. That tells you something. That anti-capitalist thinking has gained ground, especially among Black people and younger Americans. But foundational Black Americans need to ask a very hard question. If capitalism is so terrible, why has capitalism been so good to you? We are not the people that we were in the 1920s. This is not 1960. This isn't a time when the majority of us are living in abject poverty, with no access to education, no access to business, no access to home ownership, no access to professional life, and no meaningful way to build wealth. We're richer, we're more educated, we're professionals, more capitalized now. We have more options now. And whether Black people want to admit it or not, capitalism in America has helped produce the richest population of people of African descent on the planet. Do you hear me? As you sitting there in your air conditioner with your cell phone in the middle of the day, your Black behind would be in the fields 200 years ago, picking cotton and chopping sugar cane. And some of you pretty girls will be trying to run away from master, his son trying to poke you with a new baby. But again, we are different now. Look, that doesn't mean that the racial wealth gap has disappeared. I get that. I'm not saying that. Okay, but we still have to be honest with ourselves. Can we be honest? Do y'all come over here for the truth, right? I'm gonna give it to you. The Census Bureau reported that Black households made up to 13.6% of the U.S. households in 2021, but held only 4% of household wealth. And the Black median household wealth was still far below white median household wealth. Shout out to Urban Hunt. But a lot of that has to do with you just checking one person as opposed to two. White people get married, so they got two incomes coming in. That's why it's like that. I'm just saying. But again, let's be honest with the timeline also. Generation X, just listen. Generation X, which started in 1965, is the first Black American generation born fully free. Somebody type fully free. You understand? In other words, we had all the rights of citizenship, and we can exercise that. So when we talk about wealth gap, we're not comparing equal histories. Everybody else had like a 200-year head start. And in many ways, foundational Black American has had the, we've only had 1 or 2 generations to compete under anything resembling open legal access, and while others had years to build land and business and capital inheritance and institutional power. Remember, we were run up out of our land in the South. We fled the South. First generation, first migration, second migration. We had to get out of there. It was so bad. And they took our land. So we literally had to restart. But see, here's the thing, and let's be honest, that same census report says that 1 in 20 Black households had a wealth of over $1 million. That's not a small thing. Pew Research reported that in 2023, 25% of Black households earn more than $100,000, $100,000 or more. That's one in 4, including 24% of single race households. The Institute for Family Studies reported that 57% of Black men had reached the middle class or higher as adults, up from 38% in 1960. Do you hear me? That means that damn near 2/3 of Black men, by the time they reach middle age, they're either upper middle class, or rich. Do you understand how amazing that is? What other group of men can say that? Especially going through what we went through. Think about that. They accredited education, which our ancestors fought for, work, which we fought for, marriage, which we always had, military service, which we fought for, church attendance, which we always had, and personal agency. In other words, taking responsibility for yourself and your own act. They accredited that to the success. That's not failure, family. That is progress. That's capitalism. That's education, marriage, work, military service, church, business ownership, home ownership, personal agency, changing the economic profile of Black America. We aren't where we were. This isn't the 1920s. This isn't the 1960s. The majority of us aren't living in abject poverty, trapped under open legal segregation. We have homes, we have businesses, we have 6-figure households. And that means that old story that Black America is only poor and desperate and powerless and trapped is no longer true. And look, I said earlier, when I said we're the richest group of Africans, do you remember that part? We're the richest group of people of African descent on the planet. We have more millionaires in the United States, more Black millionaires in the United States than the whole 54 countries of Africa. Did y'all know that? I'm talking about scale, the scale of our economic position compared to the rest of the African world. Black Americans live inside the largest capitalist economy in human history. There was a report by McKinsey. It estimated that Black consumers' collective economic power would grow from 910 billion in consumption in 2019 to 1.7 trillion by 2030. Damn. By 2030, we damn near $22 trillion in spending power. Nelson related reporting has placed, that's how much money we put in the economy. That's a lot of money. Meanwhile, the World Bank has a list of sub-Saharan African. The GDP, gross national per capita is $1,673. That's what there is. So we aren't living like Africans in the poorest regions of the world. We aren't even living like people in the Caribbean. We're Americans. We're foundational Black Americans, and we earned it. We're the descendants of people who built wealth out of forced labor and then rebuilt after slavery. Then we got bombed out and burned out. And then we rebuilt again after Jim Crow and rebuilt after redlining and rebuilt after discrimination and still managed to become one of the most economically powerful Black populations in the world. So when anti-American pro-Black sit around condemning capitalism, okay, I get the frustration. I understand the historical injustice. I get that. But I don't accept the blindness. Why is the whole world trying to get into these capitalist Western countries? if it's so bad? Why are people leaving socialist failures and unstable governments and collapsing economies and violent countries and corrupt bureaucracies and weak infrastructures to come over here if it's so bad? Why do you think the Democrats couldn't convince those Latinos to vote for the Democrat Party? Because they experienced those socialist governments and they recognize those socialist plans. You think Venezuela wants another socialist in charge? Didn't work well for them. Nobody's coming to America because it's perfect. No country is. They're coming to America because America works. Somebody type America works. America works better than the rest of the alternatives. And Black Americans are the very proof of that. We are Exhibit A. You take a group of people from a foreign land who don't speak the language and give them a little freedom. After 2 generations, they're the richest group of those people on the planet. Think about that. We aren't our ancestors. We're not like our grandparents working from sun up to sundown with no legal protection. We're professionals, we're homeowners, we're business owners, we're investors, we're millionaires, we're lawyers, doctors, engineers, teachers, executives, entrepreneurs. Capitalism hadn't solved every problem, but it's given us the tools our ancestors could only dream about. And the question is whether we're wise enough to use those tools or foolish enough to reject the system that helped move us from survival to options. And see, that's why that European reaction to America is so important for you all to see. You Black folks, somebody type Black people in the chat. It's for you Black. I did it for you Black people. You need to see that. The most civilized countries in the world, the countries Americans were told to envy, the food, the richness, the ambiance, are now sending visitors here who are stunned by ordinary abundance. And at the same time, people from poor, unstable, and badly governed countries are trying to get into Western nations by the millions. So the places that these people are running from, saying America's better than that, you got a bunch of people trying to go where they are. And at the same time, you see, all at the same time, that's not an accident, that's evidence. The world already knows what too many Black Americans have been taught to forget. America is the best option. I'm not saying it's the most moral option, the most perfect option. I'm not saying it's innocent. I'm not saying our history is without controversy and compromise. I'm saying it's the best option right now, today, until we put something on Mars. So in the wake of this 250-year anniversary, somebody type 250 in the chat room, of the founding of this country, a foundation of Black Americans need to shift our posture. I want you to listen to me. We need to stop sounding like people who are looking for a way out and start acting like people who have a right to take over the rooms our ancestors built. We don't need to flee America. We need to master America. We need to control school boards, city councils, judge positions, police oversight boards, zoning boards, banks, businesses, land, construction, contracts, media platform, churches. Go be an HBCU president. All you Black folk out there who graduate from law school and you want to go work at a corporate job, go start your own law firm like I did. Going to medical school, great. Go set up a medical network. We need to stop asking whether America is good enough for us and start asking whether we're organized enough to claim our share of the country our ancestors paid for. And that's the difference between grievance and strategy. What you saw that young lady give was a bunch of grievance. Grievance says America owes us. Strategy says America owes us and we're going to build enough power to collect. Grievance says this country is evil or bad. Strategy says this country might have done some evil, but our people are embedded in it, and we're going to force it to work for us. Grievance, that anti-American sentiment, burn it down. Strategy says on the land before somebody else burns it down. You see what I'm saying? Own the land before somebody else burns it down. Control the courts before someone else uses them against you. Educate your children before someone else trains them to hate themselves, and build institutions that can't be easily erased. Is this all making sense? I'm just asking questions. Does this make sense? Am I saying stuff that it seems like basic common sense to me. Own it. Own everything. Do what Americans do best. But again, that's why all this anti-American rhetoric from these so-called pro-blacks and conscious and that crowd, it's got to end. It weakens us. It puts us in the position as outsiders in our own country. Who's been here more than 400, 500 years other than us? It teaches our children contempt for the only national structure that protects their borders and their citizenship and their wealth and contracts and property rights and businesses and claims. You start a business in some other country, the government can come in and take it right from you. You can't do that here. We can sue the government here. Worst of all, it allows all these foreign-born activists and outside ideologues and political hustlers to convince foundational Black Americans that rejecting America is the same thing as Black liberation. It's not. Don't you realize these people want a soul swap with you? They want a destiny swap with you. They're going to trick you out of your destiny and come right back in, and in 100 years be doing the same thing you doing right now. I'm telling you, I see it happening. See, this so-called Black liberation for foundational Black American isn't leaving America or hating America. It's not cheering for America's enemies or romanticizing Africa or Europe or socialism or communism or some imaginary global revolution that's supposedly going to rescue you. Because when the toilets stop working, guess what you're going to do? Black liberation for us means securing power inside of the United States of America. It means ownership. It means law and order. It means land. It means family first. It means discipline. It means capitalism. It means leverage. It means patriotism with memory, but patriotism nonetheless. It means demand and repair without surrendering responsibility. And it means understanding that America is flawed, but it's ours. Does that make sense if I said something that's so far-fetched that nobody can get it? I'm just asking. It makes sense to me. I get it. Now, I'm going to take the opportunity to read some of these super chats, and I want to thank everybody for contributing. I got a couple of more things to say, but I definitely want to read these really great super chats. You guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so already. Day Walker, hey brother, Attorney Spurling, throwing the support as I already know it's about to be good. Keep it coming. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, sir. The Uncle D hit the like chat. Yeah, y'all hit the like chat. Thank you so much. Let's see what we got here. I've been following Tommy Robinson since 2014. He's been the Paul Revere of the immigration issue. Only reason we're not the UK yet is how big our country is. We had 2 NYC's worth of people, wow, coming into our country in 4 years. Wake up before the hole gets too deep. You are right about that. Thank you so much. I believe it's Paula Treatise. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the $99.99. You are the real MVP of the day. Paula is back. Let me see here. And I hope I'm getting, I think, is it Paul A. Treatise or Paula Treatise? Thanks for bringing this to people's attention, Dennis. People just won't know until it's too late. Yeah, I immigrated to Australia in 13, went through very rigorous screening before entering their country, and we need to be selected. Yeah, imagine you went through this rigorous program and then somebody just show up, get dropped off on a boat, and then they get the same benefits you get. It cheapens the citizenship. And I don't think it's racist or bigoted or xenophobic to say that, okay? Because let me tell you something. The minute you go to these people's houses, the minute you go to their countries and start invading their stuff, then they get sensitive about it. They get real touchy about that. I'm just saying, I've experienced that also. But thank you so much. Let me see here. Big J, I kind of expected a couple of white judges to be against it, but to see a black woman be against it was mind-boggling and shows how off-code she is. Even Clarence Thomas couldn't vote against this true man. Yeah, why would we support anything that erases our historical ties and the sacrifices we made. I mean, it's literally written in our history. And if you look at the timing, we literally earned our citizenship. We literally, imagine, in order for somebody to get a war, they had to get citizenship in America, they had to work for free for 254 years. Then they had to fight in 3 or 4 wars. And then even after they got awarded the citizenship, they still would have to deal with like 100 years of second-class citizenship. And then we finally let them become citizens. But then everything they earned in that 100 years, we took it right back real quick and made them start again. Just think about that. That's what Black Americans went through. And so, you know, if anybody should be sensitive and protective of American citizenship, it should be Black Americans. And I think the best thing to happen for Black Americans is delineation. I've used that word in several briefs that I've written just to introduce them into the court, to get the judges that I appear in front of used to hearing that terminology, because I think it's a very important thing. We are Americans. We are foundational Black Americans, and it's only right that we have our own designation separate from anyone else. To do strong, Black women are teaming up with these people to win their elections. We need to stop that before we can be heard and taken serious on the issue. Yeah, Black women, I know what you've been told, but your issues are right aligned with the rest of Americans. You do not want a whole bunch of folk coming in here taking your jobs, especially considered that a lot of those entry-level jobs are occupied by Black women. Yeah, and when I say entry, I mean like educational job, bachelor's degree, you work for the federal government. What's going to happen when they start bringing folk in? The first generation might take Black men's jobs, welding, plumbing, low-skilled jobs, labor jobs, but the next generation, their children are going to come in and take your jobs. I mean, it's an American thing at this point. Stop. I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Vote your interest. That's what I want to say. But just be mindful of what's going on. Shout out to Big J Preach fam. That's why I find it highly disrespectful how bold and entitled these people are when they get here, especially their hatred for FBA. Yeah, that is terrible. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on this week. But thank you so much. Always good to see you, Big J. What up, brother? Congrats on the 100K sub. Yeah, man, I am a 100K YouTuber at this point. Yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't think I was gonna make it. But shout out to you. And then let me see, I also have some super chats, cash apps here. Shout out to Deborah. Thank you so much. Angela Harris, Patricia Hightower, Amal. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. And let me see here. Let me go back to let me see. Educated them, Dennis. Love them. Love it when you cook. Urban Hunt. Good looking out. Hey man, I'm over here barbecuing. Thank you so much. Big J, now only if we can get FBA women and men to vote for real tangibles instead of symbolism. We need more FBAs in the government and not these immigrants. Look, I'm telling you that we as foundational Black Americans are becoming a lot more politically savvy. Okay, I think one of the, and people don't like it, but I think one of the most politically savvy thing we did was not vote. Vote on the couch. Somebody typed the couch in the chat room when we voted for the couch. And lately, Black folks have been resting. We've been withholding our help. That said a lot. Thank you so much. I get pissed with you sometimes and hate to swallow the bitter, but you're a smart man. Hey, you know what? Thank you so much, Miss Incognito 5183. I appreciate it. Look, I'm just trying to speak the truth to people and just to make you think. That's all I want you to do. I just want you to think about it. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I just tell you to vote your interest. And if I force you to think about it enough, great. And I just thank God for giving me this, irascible personality where I don't mind being the bad guy. I am clearly enjoying myself. I clearly do enjoy making you all angry with me, because at some point, as long as you're angry, you're listening. All right, that's it. As long as you're angry, you're listening. Shout out to GCLA. Always good to see my man GCLA. Now, and who else we got in here? King Fred, thank you. Well, we are moving along with the super chats. You guys are awesome. I thought I was done for today, but let me see here. We get y'all, man, that is amazing. I'm glad you guys learned something. I appreciate that. Who else we got here? King got another 99. I'm born in the U.S. automatically makes me want a citizen. Then why add the word in the language? Good point. That's an excellent point. And thank you so much. I appreciate your super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, our FBA ancestors were Americans before America had more outrage to call, the moral courage to call us citizens. And based on that premise, I want to answer two questions often. Now, let me run this back because I want y'all to hear for yourself.
I've noticed you haven't actually answered
exactly.
the question. Are you proud to be an American right now?
You know, it's really hard, Pierce, right now when our country is synonymous with executing a genocide that has killed hundreds of thousands of people on the other side of the world. So there are aspects of being an American that I am very proud of.
You're a beautiful girl. I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Hang on.
Are you proud to be an American or not? That's it.
Hang on, Brianna. Were you proud to be an American under Barack Obama?
Not in particular. I mean, to me, it wasn't. Barack Obama had deep flaws and failings, including executing a drone war and being the
So which president
deporter-in-chief.
were you proud to be an American under?
I think that my pride in being American has less to do with our political leadership, which is often
give
very
me a time
disappointing.
period when
And
you were
wait a
proud
minute,
to be an American.
I'm proud in relationship to my fellow countrymen.
No, I get it. But
And the beauty,
which period of your life as an American?
Sad to watch.
Brianna, which period of your life as an American? You spoke very eloquently about your family fighting in all the wars. Very impressive. But at which period of your life would you have answered yes to the question, are you proud to be an American?
Every single day of my life, there are moments that I'm proud to be an American. I had a
not the
beautiful
same.
interaction.
That's not the same.
Good.
What's not the same?
Well, let me bring Brian in. I want to bring Brian in. Brian, you see,
that wasn't so hard.
There's an interesting equivocation there because
just say you're proud to be an American.
Adam's just proud to be an American. Full stop.
Are there any moments to the gentleman in the bottom left corner where you're not proud to be an American? When you're ashamed of the behaviors of your own country, or do you support America without any caveat 100% of the time, like a loyal slave?
I wish that you loved America the way that the average American did. I really do. It's sad to see.
Are you going to answer my question?
As an example of
Are you a loyal slave, Adam
question?
Sosnick? Yes or no?
No, we live in the freest country in the world. Nobody here's a slave. The fact that she had to give this long, beautiful answer rather than saying, yes, I'm proud to be an American, is a problem. And I think we need to address it.
America. Or do you slavishly defend it even when it doesn't deserve defending?
Well, why can't you be proud of your country 100% of the
just
time,
be proud to
but
be an
accept
American.
that the country has flaws? Let me bring Brian in. Hang on, Brian. Hang on. Let's let Brian.
Why is a Brit defending America more than you? You should be a proud American.
All right. So when you're dealing with these intellectuals, this conscious crowd, this so-called pro-black crowd, they're really anti-American socialists, and they're still living intellectually in the 1920s. So number one, and I'm going to answer the question for everybody, am I proud to be an American? And the answer is emphatically yes. That's an easy question for me. I know some Black Americans hesitate when they hear that question because they think it's a trick. And in many cases, it's because liberal academics and activists and anti-American voices use that question as a trap. They ask, how can you be proud of America when America enslaved your ancestors? How can you call America great when you're the product of one of the most horrific experiences ever imposed on people? Now, before I give my full response, I need to address something else they also like to add in. When you say the idea of, I like the idea of making America great again, they ask a very sinister question. When was America ever great? And my answer is very simple. America's moral dilemma doesn't erase America's greatness. In other words, America has always been great. Now, let me ask you all some questions. Do we question Russia's greatness? Because Russia and the Soviet Union committed atrocities against their own people and their neighbors. Under Stalin, the Soviet system forced collective, they created something, it's called collectivization. They created famine. They imprisoned millions of people in the gulag. They crushed dissent. They deported populations of people. They terrorized its own citizens. You see, they killed millions of Ukrainians in 1932 and 1933. Yale's Whitney and Betty McMillan Center notes that About 18 million people passed through the Gulag system, while an estimated 4.5 million didn't survive it. Nobody serious says Russia was never great, because Russia, I mean, we don't, and we know Russia has blood on its hands. We don't say that. Same thing for China. We don't question China's greatness. One of the greatest civilizations of the world is what we say. It gave the world inventions, dynasties, philosophy, trade, military power, population scale, manufacturing power, and today it remains one of the largest economies on earth. But China also had its bloods on its hands. Mao's Great Leap Forward produced the world's largest famine, with roughly 30 million people starving to death between 1959 and 1961. Can you imagine 30 million people dying inside of 3 years? But people still say China is great. They don't say China's moral failures, a racist civilization significance. Do we question the greatness of Great Britain? No, we don't. We call it Great Britain. Because Britain built one of the largest empires the world has ever known. And at its height, the British Empire governed roughly 1/5 of the world's population. This tiny little island in the North Sea was in control of 1/4 of the world's land. Britain gave the world parliamentary traditions, maritime power, literature, law, finance, science, and global language. But Britain also spread empire through conquest, extraction, and racial hierarchy, and colonial domination. We can talk about the transatlantic slave trade. We can talk about the Amritsar massacre in India, and the Boer War concentration camps, and the Mau Mau repression in Kenya. We can talk about famines, forced labor, imperial policing, the way Britain looted resources from people all over the world. They're still trying to get their stuff back. But here's the thing. Nobody serious says Britain was never great, but admit that it's morally compromised at the same time. What about Rome? Do we question Rome's greatness? Rome was one of the greatest civilizations in human history. We study its roads and armies and architecture and law and language and engineering and republican institutions and empire and influence over the Western world. But Rome was ruthless. Rome conquered, it crucified, it enslaved, it crushed its enemies. The British Museum notes that the scholars estimate that 10% to 20% of Roman Empire's population was enslaved, meaning millions of people lived under Roman slavery. Rome was great, but Rome wasn't innocent. Rome was magnificent, and it was brutal at the same time. But we don't question its greatness. We question the greatness of Greece. We call ancient Greece one of the birthplaces of Western civilization. We talk about philosophy, democracy, theater, mathematics, architecture, military, courage, and the foundations of political thought. But Greek civilization also rested on slavery and conquest. Athens alone had an estimated 60 to 80,000 enslaved people in the 5th and the 4th centuries BC. And Sparta, it built its military society on subjugation of helots. So the Greeks gave the world philosophy, democracy, while denying freedom to thousands of people under their control. Yet we still refer to Greece as great. What about Greece? What about Egypt? Do we question the greatness of Egypt? Absolutely not. Ancient Egypt remains one of the most admired civilizations in world history. We study the pyramids and the hieroglyphics and the temples and the pharaohs and the astronomy and the medicine and the architecture and the Nile-based civilizations that lasted for thousands of years. But ancient Egypt also forced labor, bonded labor, had war captives, had different forms of slavery and servitude, but Egypt was great. Egypt was ancient. Egypt was powerful, but Egypt was also morally complicated. The Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire preserved Roman law, Christian theology, Greek learning, imperial administration, art, architecture for thousands of years after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, but the Byzantine also had brutality. Under Justinian, the Nika riots in Constantinople ended with tens of thousands of dead people. Traditional accounts place the number at about 30,000. But the historians and anybody else who knows does not deny Byzantine greatness. They don't say the empire was meaningless because it used violence to preserve power. What about Persia? The Persian Empire is remembered as one of the greatest empires of the ancient world. Cyrus the Great transformed a small group of tribes into what history describes as the ancient world's first superpower through military conquest, imperial administration, but Persia was still an empire. Empires do what empires do. They conquer, they collect taxes, they dominate, they absorb, they rule, they subjugate people. There's evidence that conquered and rebellious enemies in the empire could be sold into slavery. And yet we still call Persia great. What about Spain? Do we question Spain's greatness? Absolutely not. Spain is one of the greatest powers of world history, but if we're judging greatness by moral innocence, Spain has a serious problem. In 1478, Ferdinand and Isabella established the Spanish Inquisition. In 1492, they issued a Alhambra decree and forced the Jews to convert or leave or die. And from 1609 to 1614, Spain expelled roughly 30,000 Moriscos, descendants of the Muslims, who had already been forced into Christianity. And then Spain crossed the Atlantic Ocean. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, he arrived in the Caribbean. And by 1493, the Spanish settlers were enslaving the Taino people in the name of Spain. And for decades, conquest, forced labor, starvation, punishment, enslavement, disease destroyed the indigenous Caribbean societies. And then they went to the mainland. They went to Mexico. In 1519, Hernan Cortez, he entered the Aztec territory. And by August 13th, 1521, the Spanish had captured Teclocan, leveled the city, seized the Aztec Empire, and turned the capital of one of the civilizations into the foundation of Spanish Mexico. And yet, nobody says Spain wasn't great. Do we need to talk about the Mongol? Do you know who Genghis Khan is? The Mongol Empire, one of the largest empires ever created. Basically, it went from China all the way through Russia. We talk about military organization, horse warfare, speed, strategy, trade routes. It reshaped Eurasia, but the Mongols were also terrifying, like a horde of locusts, as they were described. Cities were destroyed, populations were annihilated, and I mean massacred, I mean genocide. Entire regions were devastated. These are the only group of people that have ever conquered the Afghans. You understand? America couldn't do it. France couldn't do it. Russia couldn't do it. Alexander the Great couldn't do it. The Mongols did it. I mean, we're talking about 18 million dead in China and the surrounding areas, while also cautioning that, look, bottom line is the Mongol conquest was brutal, but the Mongol Empire was still great. And India is one of the greatest civilizations in the world. It produced philosophy, religion, mathematics, art, trade, literature, and the massive economic power. Some say when Jesus left, he went to India to study for those missing years. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I love Jesus. But the other thing you have to understand is that along with that philosophy and economic power, India has moral dilemmas. It has a caste system right now, a racial caste system, one of the oldest and most entrenched systems of social hierarchy in human history. Discrimination is institutionalized right now. These people whom they call delettes, they're denied access to wells, temples, common spaces, basic dignity. They even are referred to after untouchable. It was constitutionally up until it was abolished in 1950. Ancient India also had forms of slavery and servitude, including debt bondage, social stratification, servitude connected to war and conflict, and yet nobody serious says India was never great. They understand that civilization can be great and morally burdened at the same time. Now, somebody type now. Now, if you all have no problem calling those nations great, China, Russia, Great Britain, Greece, Rome, Egypt, India, Byzantine, Mongol. If you don't have any problem calling those countries great, you should have absolutely no problem calling the United States of America great. Because the United States of America surpasses all those countries in accomplishment, influence, innovation, standard of living, peaceful transfer of power, economic strength, military power, technology, scholarship, medicine, science, and global reach. America is the hub of modern intellectual life, research, invention, entrepreneurship, technology advancement. We're on the cusp of interstellar travel. We lead in philosophy, mathematics, history, science, medicine, law, engineering, and innovation. America helped create the modern world as it is now. Whether we're talking about air travel, combustion engine, mass production, electricity systems, modern medicine, computer technology, the internet, space travel, artificial intelligence, America has either invented or perfected, financed, expanded, or globalized the tools that brought the rest of the world out of the Stone Age. We literally helped pull the world out of darkness through our invention, our ingenuity, our wealth, our power, and our imagination. That's why the anti-American argument is intellectually unserious. If moral innocence is the standard, then no great nation has ever existed. If slavery disqualifies America, then Rome is disqualified, and Greece, and so is Egypt, is disqualified. Britain is disqualified. Spain, Persia is disqualified. India is disqualified. Because much of the ancient world is disqualified. If conquest disqualifies America, then almost every empire in history is disqualified. If oppression disqualifies America, then most of the world's celebrated civilizations are disqualified. But nobody applies that standard consistently. They apply it only to America because attacking America has become fashionable, especially among people who benefit from America the most. So when people ask, when was America great? My answer is this: America was always great. America is great right now. And America is going to continue to be great as long as Americans keep pushing forward. Now, as to why I'm proud to be an American, why wouldn't I be? If all those people from all those great nations, past and present, can be proud of their nation, why should I not be? Why is patriotism and love for country acceptable for everybody else, but somehow suspicious when a foundation of Black American says I'm proud of my country? We throw the word proud around for everything else. We proud of the school we went to, proud of the neighborhood we live in, proud of our family, proud of our children, proud of our little degrees, proud of our business, proud of our home, proud of the lives we built. But when it comes to say I'm proud of the country in which all that stands, suddenly people get nervous. Suddenly it's no longer fashionable anymore. Suddenly people act like patriotism is some kind of intellectual weakness. That's conditioning. That's the influence of people who taught you to be ashamed of the country that gave you the opportunity to build the life you now enjoy. That's That's nothing to be proud of. And that's why I reject that silly, fashionable, anti-American answer that comes out of those Ivy League classrooms and those activist circles and those media spaces where people sit inside the safety, wealth, and protection of America while teaching others to hate it. They have to convince people who should be the most thankful to be ashamed of it. I'm proud to be an American, and I say that as a foundational Black American whose roots run deeper in this country than most white people and most Black people, especially the Black immigrants. We were here. Our citizenship wasn't handed to us as a favor. We fought for it. We earned it. And now we reap the benefits of that hard-won sacrifice. My family reaps the benefits. And frankly, so does everybody else who walked through those doors. Black Americans helped force open. I'm proud to be an American, absolutely. And I'm proud without apology. And I'm proud as a Black man. I'm proud as a lawyer. I'm proud as a father of 3 American boys. I'm proud as a foundational Black American. I'm proud because my ancestors didn't survive slavery, Jim Crow, terror, exclusion, and betrayal, so I could sit here in comfort and pretend like this country isn't mine. It's mine. It's ours. It's our blood in the soil. It's our labor in the foundation. It's our dead ancestors in the ground. And our victories are written into the Constitution. So yes, America is great. Yes, I'm proud to be an American, and the rest of you should never be afraid to say that either. So happy 250th anniversary to the United States of America and all the Americans. And as I always said this time, this is Uncle D, and I'm
in the Spurling podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe.